Hello friends, welcome to the Legends of the Nightfort Explained stream, where we're going to review Old Nan's spookiest stories about the Nightfort. And really we're here to talk about my favorite Westerosi couple, might have said couple. I'm sure they coupled together in the darkness. Night's King and Queen, everyone's favorite power couple. So I hope you've enjoyed our other Nightfort videos that we've done in the last couple months, Secret Magic of the Nightfort and Bran the Builder. And today we are back, got a guest here, to explain each of the 9 spooky stories attached to the Nightfort. Thinking of the lines of Odin hanging from Yggdrasil, 9 nights, 9 full nights, 9. Anyways, something like that. So yeah, the Nightfort, all these spooky stories, they do kind of lead up to Night's King and Queen, his lovely moon-pale other bride from the haunted forest. And joining me here to break it all down is Hero with 1,000 Voices, aka our friend Sean. Sean, thank you. Your green screen effect is off. I'm sure you're supposed to be invisible. What's happening?
Yeah, we are having technical difficulties. I was trying to go invisible in the Weirwood net, and well, the point is, I'm a secret green man.
That's the point. Secret green man. Secret green agent man. Yeah, got to work on that. We'll workshop it. In any case, hi. And hello, chat. We've got some notes and things. I was in the middle of my scripted intro most of the way through, but basically what we're doing today is we're going to look at these Nightfort legends in terms of both how they set the atmosphere and the tone of the story, providing context for such joyous events as the Red Wedding and Wyman Manderly's Frey pies. And then we're also going to think about how they are intended as symbolic riddles that hint at the deeper magical truths of the story, like Night's King and Queen and the creation of the others. So this dark corpus of Old Nan's Nightfort folklore is what Bran got instead of Sesame Street, Sean. So at least we, instead of Where the Wild Things Are, Good Night Moon, insert your favorite children's book. He got Old Nan stories instead. So the least we could do is try to figure out what all this shit means and why George included it in the books, other than he likes to be spooky. So yeah, it'll be some timeline heresy here. And that's it. I'm joined by, of course, Hero with 1,000 Voices. You guys know the YouTube channel. It's called Hero with 1,000 Voices. And if you want to join our Patreons, which is really the way to support us if you like our material, you can look us up with the very same names on Patreon. David Lightbringer, Hero with 1,000 Voices. Now, you've got a lot of secret content on your Patreon, don't you, Sean?
I do. I actually have a lot more content on Patreon than I do on YouTube. It's a little bit more informal and long form for the most part, but it's examinations that do a bunch of different books, whereas YouTube I've really focused on my few favorite, like Tolkien and George R.R. Martin.
And if I really could put in a word for Sean, like the hardest point in the YouTube arc is getting it started. So by joining Sean's Patreon, you really are getting in at the ground level and helping him become a YouTuber. That's going to be around for years and years, giving his commentary on stories, Ice and Fire and otherwise. So definitely do check that out. And his Patreon material is top notch. On our Patreon, of course, the David Lightbringer Patreon, we have access to our Discord. I just put out a fresh link this morning. You get the name recognition on the intro like you just saw. We do monthly t-shirt giveaways. We're overdue. We might have to do 2 in a row when Maynard gets back from vacation. He's out running music festivals and stuff because Maynard James Plum is a mover and shaker. He makes things happen. He literally is helping his friend who has a production company run a big music festival right now. So,
Business Raven.
But that's him. You could see Blood Raven being like a entertainment mogul person. Like you could sort of see that. In any case, we give away t-shirts and we've got access to our gallery of commissioned art. And haven't done this yet, but with our very highest tiers of Patreon patrons, we're going to have you guys help me sponsor some future commissioned art. So we'll get back into that. And I have several videos coming just to finish the housekeeping here. Land the Clever, not this week, but next week. The week after next, rather. This week coming up, I'll have something called George's Secret Story, which Sean actually helped me workshop a little bit. And this, guys, is going to be one of my most important videos. It's going to be an attempt to reach people who don't know about the story within the story, quote unquote, the secret landscape of symbolism, myth, and archetype that we essentially is our bread and butter here. Sean's channel. Michael talks about stuff. Grow Food's daughter. You guys know the names. Eldrick Stoneskin. And so, essentially, I'm trying to make a short, really friendly, not entry level, but like taking somebody who's just read the main story or just watched the show and being like, hey, if you want a new book in Ice and Fire, there actually is one hidden in the main books that you may not be, tuned into. So that's going to be George's Secret Story. Please support it. It's going to be, like I said, trying to reach some new folks with that one and bring them into the fun. We want everyone to be in the club. We're not trying to be exclusive over here, right?
No, sorry. I was just looking at you. You had a little bit at you in the chat, and I got distracted. That's classic me.
Well, we are a couple of ADHD captains, a couple of Chaos Lords here, just trying to string thoughts together. That's for sure. Do you think Jojen's eyes will be purple, or John's eyes, upon resurrection? I'm thinking they'll be red, actually. I'm thinking red and white. It's going to, George is steering him towards the Elric of Melniboné future, I believe.
Yeah, the Witcher over here. You'll have to make another video.
Yeah, by the time John looks like the Witcher, it's like, okay, who started this? We got Rhaegar and Elric and Witcher and Bloodraven, and then you go back and you find Anomander Rake even, and all kinds of other albino folks. It's a thing. I don't know why everyone wants to be a bloody albino.
Well, no, Witcher will be on its fourth recast by then, so at that point it might be played by Girl Nettles.
Okay. I was going to make the joke that people like us are close to albinos you can get, since we don't go outside. We stay inside and make videos all the time. But Sean, do you have moleskin gloves?
No, they're just
greenskin gloves, slightly different. All right. Yeah, albinos rock. I didn't know, no slights to albinism, of course. I just, it's like, why is there 1,000 of them in, apparently if you're an albino, that's the only career path you have, is get a big black sword, learn magic, learn how to kill people. No, that's not true. All right. So Nightfort myth, it's cooked, Sean, it's cooked. And
it is
rat cooked. And unsurprisingly, most of this stuff does seem to be complementary to the Night's King and Night's Queen puzzle, the creation of the Other's mystery. That's kind of the central thing at the Nightfort, along with the creation of the Wall, the Black Gate. It's all about the Others here. So all of these myths, on a certain level, on the more cryptic level, they're giving us clues about Night's King and Queen. However, each legend is also operating very much as vibes-based local folklore. Cannibalism, guest rights, stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at that layer kind of first, before we get into the cryptic, symbolism shit. So we'll start with this local folklore lesson and lens and see how it builds up. So love this new feature in Google Docs. You see this with the nesting? Very handy. Big fan of that. Google Docs finally did something right. Okay. So Sean, the rat cook. We will start with the rat cook. It's a great example of how local folklore gives us the flavor of the world, isn't it?
Yeah. So one thing that is impressed upon us in the series is that guest right is sacred everywhere, but it's more sacred in the North. And you look at what happened in that story, and there were a lot of very problematic, horrible things happening. But the thing that they focus on, and the reason for the punishment, retribution, whatever, from the gods, was the breaking of guest right.
Yeah, it's kind of like an extra, that's almost why the story is extra creepy, because Old Nan's like, baked his sons in a pie. Old gods didn't mind that. A man has a right to vengeance, but he slew a guest beneath his own roof, and that the old gods cannot abide. So there is something about guest right that is totally, totally sacred. And like you were alluding to, the first level of this is like, it's the north. It's sparsely populated. It's a cold winterness. It's a winter wilderness. Winterness, that works. It's like Siberia up there. So if somebody comes struggling down the road and you don't let them in your house, you're basically condemning them to death. And if you do let them in, they're like totally vulnerable. So this code, this common law of guest right, allows people to count on each other when they're starving out in a snowstorm, essentially. So it's an important custom that kind of holds the continuity of the people together in the North.
Yeah. Oh, and another important thing to remember is that guest right works both ways. If you take the bread and salt from somebody, you also cannot harm them in their house.
Well, you need it to work both ways for it to work. Yes. So it's like
Right.
it's a kind of truce. It's an automatic thing. It's like we put in the survival first. Even if we have grudges, let's settle our grudges in the summer when everyone's at full strength instead of So
You're in Veastothrak now.
yeah, a little bit. It is some. That's a good comparison actually. Because those Dothraki, they will kill each other quick, fast, and in a hurry, except when they're in Veastothrak, and it has to be that way. Because otherwise, they would never be able to come together. They would never be able to come and collectively hear the wisdom of the crones. And then they would fall apart as a nation. They would not be a coherent people if not for that.
Right. It's their cultural center, and it's necessary. And in the North, you're talking about kind of the micro level where, it's winter, it's cold, it's not a hospitable environment. If you turn someone away, whatever, like people can die that way. But at the macro level, entire houses can go extinct if they don't handle winter well. So the idea is you have to be able to have some diplomacy, or 2/3 of your small folk are going to die, and now all of a sudden your house is vulnerable.
Yeah, and there's definitely been a lot of wars. I don't know which ones, so I'm not going to speak incorrectly, but definitely it is a custom in some parts of the world and sometimes where like they'd go to war in the spring and summer and like call it off for the winter and then come back, So yeah, everything gets ritualized and turned into some sort of system, even when it's things like war and murder. But so yeah, that's the rat cook custom. And the rat cook, interestingly, he is
I think held a grudge.
I was trying to figure out what the autocorrect did to me. I mean, the Nightfort is a refrigerator.
Yeah, as John will find out.
So yeah, the parts that we exactly. Thank you. Got to keep that meat cold. That John meat. All right. So the rat cook. The point is he has a grudge against a visiting Andal king. And he baked this king's son into a pie and fed it to the king, which is fine because a man has a right to vengeance. So that implies there is some cause for vengeance potentially for the rat cook. He might have been wronged. We don't know. But he took this revenge against the Andal king. One of my questions is like, why is there an Andal king at the Nightfort?
He's visiting. That's hard to say, but one thing that we definitely can take out of this story is they don't even remember, or it's not worth noting what the Andal King did, or what the basis of the grudge was. Yet they're still presenting it as if it's completely fine to do something to this Andal King, and that shows a little bit of cultural bias north to Andal.
Yeah, it's like we're not weaklings. We're not wimps here. We're not shrinking violets. Like, no, we do horrific grudges and violence and things, but there has to be some sort of code. What's that?
He's like, yeah, of course. We just have a structure, murder structure.
That's it. Yes. Do we assume there's a Proto-Night's Watch? Harrison Grand Williams asks, possibly led by a bad Stark brother stationed at independent cities like the Five Forts before Bran the Builder connected them with an 800-foot ice wall. So what Harrison is getting at here is the idea that Night's King and Night's Queen, they really do seem like they're existing during the Long Night. They rule for 13 years, which seems like a good length for the Long Night. He's the king of the night, and they're making others at the Nightfort. It all seems like it's happening at the Long Night. However, he's said to be the 13th man to rule the Watch. And that everything that we know about the Watch says it was formed at the War for the Dawn. The Children of the Forest helped the first men of the Night's Watch rally to win the War for the Dawn, last hero, Dragonsteel. So 13 Lord Commanders later puts Night King 150 years after the Long Night. So one of the things that people are always looking for is what's the clever writing here? How can that 13th Lord Commander thing be something that's become foggy over the course of time, like folktales do, so that he can really live at the Long Night? Because all the other clues do point to that. And so one of those ideas is, well, maybe the Night's Watch existed before the Long Night as some other group and became transformed into the Watch. And so the 13th Lord Commander is actually the guy that's running this group at the beginning of the Long Night. I think Sean and I would both agree that this would be a Green Man Watch at the Nightfort before the wall was made. That would be my vote for it. But there's also the Moat Cailin idea. And feel free to vamp on any of that, Sean. Go ahead.
Well, I'm definitely partial to the Moat Cailin idea, and I think there was, just from the way the towers are named, the way that it's looked at, the way that reeks a lot more of first men ability, as opposed to what's the chrono, it's out of time. What's the word for that? Anachronistic ice wall of 700 feet in the north that's clearly magical. And we know it's magical. We've seen that it's magical in that dragons can't cross it, Cold Hands and others can't cross it, etc. So I kind of look at it as, two wall situation, Moat Cailin being one of them. And it's still very much playing that role. Even though it is broken down in some places, the swamp has kind of filled in the gaps so that it's still impossible to cross unless you know how to, you get the, reeds to help you or somebody. So I guess my idea of this is the number 13 may or may not matter. He may not have actually been the 13th. It may just be a hint, because we're supposed to think, when we think 13, we're supposed to think last hero.
Right. So he reigns for 13 years. He's the 13th Lord Commander. And then last hero has 12 companions plus himself for another 13. So when you see all those 13s, it does make you think this is kind of like those Andal myths where everything is 7.
Right. It's a lot of coincidence for it to all be literal. But I mean, the important part is we're getting last hero vibes, and that last hero vibe, it's based off of Mithras with his 12 disciples, Jesus with his 12 disciples, Beowulf with his 12 thanes. It's the same story. We've got this hero, kind of a sacrificial hero in all three of those cases, who and that very much squares with what we think of the last hero, and of how George conceptualizes a hero, the self-sacrificial nature of a hero.
Yes. It seems to be potentially, an idea based on the Zodiac, but it takes on its own life, because it's been done so many times that people can then sort of copy the idea without even really thinking about the Zodiac. But that's probably the inception of all this stuff. Even Hercules and his 12 labors.
Yeah.
It's just a sort of a theme that's running through. Now, Wesan brings up, of course, the part of the Night's Watch, Oath, I am the Watcher on the walls. It's always been a question. What walls? There's one wall. They're very famously standing atop one wall and watching. So could those walls have been the previous place where they existed, either Moat Cailin or, in my opinion, the Nightfort before the wall was made? The other thing about the two wall idea, Sean, is that's Hadrian's wall is not the only wall. There has been attempts to build a smaller wall further north. Did they actually build it, or did they just want to build it? Or
it didn't work out too well. Construction was interrupted by the clans, the Scottish Highland clans. And
then there's also a wall of dikes that is separating Wales and parts of Wales from England as well. That's kind of like a wall. So there's a few different versions. The Antonine wall is mostly made of wood. That's the one I was thinking of.
Well, and there's an allusion to it in King Eris Yeah, you're gonna. So yeah,
No, go
King
ahead. Go
Eris
ahead.
talks about he wants to build another wall further north of the existing wall just to land grab, and it's like you have a 700-foot ice wall. You want to build north of that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then, of course,
But,
George also describes the line of trees of the haunted forest opposite the wall as a second wall, like of darkness. So there's a lot of allusions to it. Yeah, and so there could have been an original wall. Some people even think there was an ice wall built around Moat Cailin and it melted, and that's why there's a swamp. Now, I think there's different evidence for flooding based on like the Hammer of the Waters and the Iron Islands stuff. But yeah, sure, maybe not, or maybe, who knows?
I think it's pretty conclusive at this point. Not obviously provable, but that there was, a meteor came down somewhere among the Iron Islands, and tsunami flood. Like
Yeah,
the neck.
there's both meteor and volcano sign on the Iron Islands. We can see that the fault line that runs under the Iron Islands almost certainly runs through the neck. Whenever you see two continents joined by a little thin thread, and there's a lot of like horizontal striping to the structure of the land, like that's fault line stuff. To the extent that George is thinking about it. So
Well, and that's another thing that we kind of lose focus on with these natural disasters. If a meteor comes down, a sizable meteor, every volcano and every fault line within hundreds or thousands of miles is going off.
well, and we're
So,
seeing that sort of geothermal interconnectivity right now. We had an earthquake in the Kamchatka Peninsula, and now there's volcanoes in different places going off and venting and stuff. So I
right.
was just watching some videos about that. There's some geologists who are looking out for even greater future activity. There's some rifting and like volcanoes under the Arctic Ocean and shit that like could cause trouble. So anyway, but you know how geological time is. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in 10,000 years. Who
Sure.
knows?
Well, to get back to the one reason why I don't really like the southern ice wall theory is we know that the swamps are salty.
The swamp. Okay. What's that
So
got
if the
to do with anything?
like the flooding of the neck, if it's salt water, it most likely came from the ocean rather than from a gigantic ice wall.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I mean,
Gotcha.
theoretically, you could have a gigantic salty ice wall, but the thing is like then you have freezing temperature points. It's much harder logistically to make an ice wall out of salt water, and also like they would have to be like irrigating salt water in like it's hard to work.
So check this out. This is the world's largest supervolcano. It's this. It's right here. It's this thing. And what it is it's the beginning of the splitting of the crust that goes all the way through the Atlantic Ocean. This giant rift that
Goes right through
right under
Iceland.
Iceland,
Yeah.
okay? And it goes all the way up here and it ends and this is where it's pulling apart. And there's been like some volcanic activity right up in here. And so like, yeah, this thing can create a pyroclastic flow at the bottom of the ocean. It's so powerful, which is like
Yeah.
insane. But beside the point, I
Well,
just love Google Earth. Sorry, had to pull it up
awfully
real quick.
close to the polar ice caps, which is super uncomfortable. But
Well, there are volcanoes in Antarctica, but actually that's not a big risk for ice melting. It's just not. That's not really the scale that's a problem for us. So, all right, so let's keep going here. Let's get back to the Nightfort. We will come back to the idea of Andal kings hanging out at the Nightfort. It does happen
right.
again and again. So let's talk about the Freys and the Rat Cook because this is obviously a big part of it. The Freys are rat-faced, okay, and they violated guest right, and then Wyman served, some Freys, some other Freys in pies. So that's pretty straightforward, right?
Yes, and we obviously he killed a king, so that's a parallel that we see pretty hard. But he is the Andal king in
Who killed
this
a king?
analogy. Walder Frey. So they
Oh,
killed
yes.
Rob. So the analogy kind of works both ways. So you're talking earlier about like, well, what did this Andal king do? that it felt justified to kill him or get revenge on him, just the circumstances were bad. So it's like, in this scenario, he killed a king. So are we going to kill him back? Yes, because he broke guest right. But one of the funny things about the Frey pies is that, as brutal as it was, Wyman Manderley was very, very careful to observe guest right. And even though he can't actually, George is not actually going to confirm that those are Freys in the pies, the heavy-handed hints tell us that he was observing guest right. Like he's talking to Davos about, hey, do they give guest gifts in the South to signify the end of guest right? What would I need to do in order to murder these Frey? Like that kind of stuff. And then he has them sing the rat cook.
That's why Wyman is a boss. He dots his I's, he crosses his T's, he gives them guest gifts, and then he kills them out in the woods like a civilized Northman, and then has somebody sing the rat cook song while he gobbles down the pies. 2 helpings of every pie. It's disgusting.
It's
but
not
he's
even
a boss.
that different from how Walder Frey did it, where they sang the Reigns of Castamere and then murdered Robb. It's like choreographing your intentions.
Yeah. I do love how George uses music in that way. A lot of the singers get a raw deal. It was Simon Silvertongue, Marillion is a total dirtbag. So a lot of the musicians in the story are a little disappointing. Thomas Evans is salt of the earth. We like him. But
well, he's a little bit of a slut.
He's a lecher. Yeah. That's true.
And he won't acknowledge that one kid who looks exactly like him just because the kid can't sing.
It's like the softcore version of Vermeer. None of them have the gift. They're not my sons. Yeah. All right, so other rat cook themes I noticed in House Frey. Walder is kind of denying his kids their future by refusing to die. And that's the idea of like this elderly rat that's eating all his children. Like Walder's not like a boomer. He's refusing to get off the stage. Get off the stage, boomers. It's not your time anymore.
You look at it and the boomers, they were the largest generation in American history. And so they had a disproportionate impact on politics, even after an age where it's normally the new generation comes in. Still
do.
Right. And now
they're trying to recruit a 78-year-old to run for Senate in some Midwestern state. The Democrats are.
Wow.
78. It's a governor. They want her to run for Senate. She's 78.
Yeah, that's president age. That's way too old. But yeah, it's you look at Walder Frey and it's a similar thing. He's affecting the politics. He's making the decisions. The Red Wedding, that was Walder Frey's idea, call. He's the one who was negotiating with Tywin Lannister. Of course, he had who's the
Black Walder?
The Clubfoot. Well, Black Walder was kind of like the military wing of this, but he had the Clubfoot Frey, who was kind of the planner. And
yeah, who was that one? Oh, Lame Lothar.
Yeah, he's doing a Laris Varys type thing.
Yeah, he's a sick bastard, there. Lothar. He designed the cruelties of the Red Wedding in detail and stuff.
Yeah, it's also kind of an ironic name because Lothar means great warrior.
It was Black Walder and Lame Lothar who planned it, mostly.
Right.
Would you say Lothar means warrior?
Great warrior, yeah.
Oh, that's ironic. Okay.
Yeah.
So like I said, Walder is refusing to get off the stage, and he is not transferring power. He's not selecting an heir and making sure that there'll be the one to inherit. He's just sitting atop this waiting kinslaying fight. The Frey heirs are ready to consume each other in a giant power struggle. What's that?
Is it waiting though?
Well, it's there. It's like the Cold War version of it now.
Sure, but we're seeing, aside from the ones who have died naturally, like Hosteen Frey died fighting for Robb, etc., we're seeing Big and Little Walder. That was Little Walder killed Big Walder, or sorry, other way around. Big Walder killed Little Walder. We should
get into some of those. I haven't. There's a couple of murder mysteries like that I haven't drilled all the way down into.
It's pretty brutal, and like Big Walder, who's actually the smaller one, and he's a little bit more devious. He's talking about how he will be Lord of the Crossing, and he is way back in the succession. So he's gonna murder. Like that's his thing. He's gonna do a lot of murder. Whereas
Which one died?
Little Walder, who was actually physically bigger.
Okay. So who's the one carrying him into the hall? An older Frey, it must be.
So there was some stuff going on because they were like hanging out with some of Ramsay's men. There was like some type of conspiracy there. It was weird.
Hostine, yeah, Hostine. Yeah, we should get into all that Frey. That would be interesting. It's kind of like trying to sort out the Marine stuff. You know, they've all got the same names. You don't like any of them. So in any case, I actually kind of like, I have a little soft spot for Shave Pate. He's, don't know that I'd want to hang out with him, but he's a product of his, you know, anyway. So the Freys are waiting to consume themselves, and Walder is just sort of sitting on this and waiting for it to happen when he dies. And of course, Freyr and Freya, they're Norse fertility gods. So this is like a cursed version of it.
And they're twins, which is, you know, obviously important for the Freys who, you know, rule at the twins.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to some more symbolism of the twins, but just sticking with the Rat Cook stuff. We talked about this before, but Hodor's real name is Walder. Okay. And so the idea that Walder Frey holds the twins, which is the crossing, and he's the Lord of the Crossing, that's part of the system of clues that Hodor is going to hold the door at the Nightfort, which is the crossing, and then he'll become sort of a Lord of the Crossing.
Right. Well, and we got Hodor as, you know, as like Bran's kind of horse, sort of. Bran rides him around. He's a stable boy, constantly smells of horse, etc. I mean, Hodor might as well be neighing. But anyway, his name's Walder, and he's hanging out with Little and Big Walder for a number of chapters.
Yeah, and they're playing the game at the crossing. They're playing a crossing game in the Godswood and all that. A new thing that occurred to me. So there's going to be a Frey at the wall door when Hodor holds the door. That's what Hodor is going to be protecting Bran from, is a Frey, meaning like a fight. So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of it.
Got it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of detailed symbolism there, and of course, we'll get into this. But if the twins are symbolizing the Nightfort and the wall, which they do seem to be, again, the Lord of the Crossing is Waldor Frey versus the Blackgate Waldor. All right. So at the twins, there's the river, and there's the central tower, and then there's the two big towers on either side. Those are the twins. One's on either side. So if we go to the wall, what are the twins that are on either side of the wall? Well, the black brothers and the white others, the black shadows and the white shadows. They are twins.
Well, and one thing that we were talking about, you wrote this script originally. I had almost no part in it, but we did discuss it a little bit. And one of the things we were talking about is when they were at the Red Wedding, they had two different parties, one in each castle. And the main one was with Walder Frey, Robb, Cat, all the main people. And then they had one for lesser lords and knights and stuff across the way in the other castle called the Bastard Feast. So what we're saying is we have these twins, we have these, you know, two brothers. One of them is a bastard. And it's the same format we see with Robb and Jon Snow. And it's the same format we're kind of seeing with the others in the Night's Watch.
Right, because the others are the blue bloods. They literally have blue blood, and they come from Night's King and Queen. So they are royalty. Compare that to the Night's Watch. They're the outlaws and criminals and bastard brothers, third sons and things. So yeah, the Bastard Feast, that makes sense. And as you say, the pattern is mimicked in House Stark with Robb, the trueborn son, and Jon, the bastard brother, who's at the wall.
Well, and to add another layer of irony to this, Jon really is a king. He really is a blue blood because he's really the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, right? Like He's raised as a bastard, but he's not really a bastard. He's really royalty, just like the other brother.
He'll never
But
stop thinking like a bastard, though.
right, but
That'll serve
that's
him
kind of the
well.
same idea with that we have about like the last hero, right? If the last hero is the son of the Night's King and Queen or whoever it was, and there it's kind of like a baby snatching situation that we see everywhere, like with Monster, like with John, like with anybody who's ever been fostered. Like they're not really a bastard. They're not the son of the people raising them or squiring to, or being a page to, or whatever, but they're not bastards either.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, the diamond in the rough. Like you say, Secret Green Man, the Night's Watch, they're bastards and criminals on the outside. But yeah, they've got the true steel underneath, of course. And that's part of George. It's the opposite of George showing us white knights with grand reputations who are actually have shit for honor on the inside. So it's,
We're all green on the inside.
totally. So in the Bran the Builder video, I proposed the deeper explanation for the rat cook, the following explanation. I basically, and this is, I'm pretty sure I didn't think of this. I think it's hard for me to remember at this point, but I think the idea of interpreting the rat cook as a Weirwood is probably a fandom idea I got from someone else. It's a very old idea. And so basically, if you think about it, an albino rat is going to have red eyes and it's going to have a bloody red mouth because he's eating his descendants. So that's pretty much a Weirwood tree at this point. White tree, red mouth, red eyes. And of course, the green seers, the oldest green seers that are in the Weirwood net, are consuming the blood sacrifices of their descendants at times.
Right, and that's something that we see directly in the sacrifices before the Winterfell Heart tree when Bran is seeing through its eyes.
That's right. And even if subsequent descendants of the original Green Seer also become Green Seers, they're still getting eaten by the tree. Look at Bloodraven. He's getting eaten by the tree. So the tree consumes everything. It's the ancestor. It's the rat cook. Now, the rat cook is cursed for having done something bad. And the Weirwoods, like we always say, they're in some sort of fallen state. They have been cursed. They're screaming and they look like zombies, blood and bone, white trees, like whites, zombie trees, Azor Ahai maybe cursed the whole thing and screwed it up. So there's some sort of correlation there with this cursed tree that's, has to eat its descendants. And if we think about it like all the clues that the Weirwoods originally had green men hooked up to them and they had leaves like green hands. So think about it. Like right now they drink human blood and so their leaves are like bloody hands. Well, originally, if there were green men instead of humans hooked up to the trees in a symbiotic relationship, then it would have been green blood that was pumping through the tree's veins, not red blood. So that's why Garth Greenhand and all that green hand stuff. The original Weirwoods, white and green with green blood, and then they got filled with red blood. So that's the modification, essentially.
There's another reason we need to do that chapter, The Queenmaker, where they all end up dying in the Green Blood River.
Yeah, that's a good. That's that chapter is that's a heavyweight. That's a heavyweight.
It's also comical. Anyway,
anything with Ares Oakheart is comical. We should do that chapter soon for a reread. I'd love to have your eyes on that one. That's a good idea.
So I agree with you as far as like the rats being very good werewood symbols. It's also just to kind of corroborate that in the way that George usually does by showing little little symbolic parallels. One thing that he does with a lot of towers, specifically white towers, is that he will say they're only inhabited by rats now. So like, just seeing that over and over again, a white tower inhabited with rats, it sounds like a werewood with little rats in the base, where the rats are like these green seers. And one thing that we've seen is
because they're running around inside the tree. Yeah,
right.
And there's a bunch of them.
Yeah. Well, one thing we've seen, like who all have we actually seen hooked up to the Weirwood net? A bunch of little children of the forest, a bunch of little green men, right?
Right.
And Bloodraven, who is cosplaying the others about as hard as you can. He's albino, obviously. He's lost all color. He's got little white grave worm roots growing through him.
He's doing a different. So a lot of the like end point Azor Ahai characters, they end up with this ice and fire unity symbolism. Stannis is a blue-eyed king with a red sword. Jon Snow is a Targaryen cloaked in ice in the north with a hidden, under the name Snow. Fagon, he is a Targaryen, but he's got all this blue symbolism that he's taken on. So there is a lot of ice and fire unity symbolism with some characters. Because Bloodraven, he is showing us a picture of Azor Ahai in the Weirwood net dead, but that's the person that becomes Night's King somehow. Right. In some sense, in some scenarios. So I see what you're talking about.
Well, and he's handing it off to Bran, who does not really have othery symbolism. He has more classic Summer King, Child of the Forest imagery to him. So it's kind of like a resolution. And it's very interesting because
he does have the blue eyes of the Tullys, I will say that.
True. But Brynden Rivers, like that's just the southern version of Brandon. So it's like, the implication is that it's the same bloodline.
The same archetype, maybe is a better way to say it. Yeah.
Or both. Like when you look at that resolution, a lot of times it goes through the son. So it's like he's not literally his son, obviously.
Oh, I see what you're saying. In the same way that like Edric Storm is playing like Barrick's son because he's his squire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like Edric, or you mean Edric Dane? But
Edric Dane. Yeah. That's what I meant.
Edric Storm, I mean, he's playing a similar thing. He's named after Eddard too.
Leave Edric Storm out of it. That's for another day. We should talk about that. I saw Quinn the GM made a video about Robert's Bastards. I haven't watched it yet. But that's a good topic. He's got some good ones. All right, so like I said, the descendants are, even if they're not blood sacrificed to the Weirwoods, they're often buried in the Lich Yard. So in the ground under the trees, like Nimble Dick was. So the and we saw that at the Whispers. I mentioned that in the Bran the Builder video. Nimble Dick, he's buried under the Weirwood of his ancestor, Dick Crab. So it's more rat cook stuff consuming the descendants. It's definitely a Weirwood thing. And the Green Seers are also consumed into the hive mind. So it's another consumption idea. And specifically the Black Gate might be the most central incarnation of the rat cook idea. If that is Bran the Builder, as I posited in my Bran the Builder video, then he literally is eating his children. Either the children that are given to the others through that gate, perhaps, or just people who go north through the gate to become a Green Seer, like Bran did. Bran is a descendant of Bran the Builder, so he just got eaten by his ancestor when he went through the Black Gate.
Well, and an idea I like about all that is, we've gotten in the last few streams talking about the more gross nature of the world tree and George's symbolism of going through the back door. One of the ideas is that it used to be reversed, right? Before the wall was up, the Nightfort is protecting from the other direction, right? So it's like we have the others going out the back door through the Black Gate. They're being sacrificed, sent out through the back door to become others, because that's the symbolic line that the others are doing. So when they come through that door the other way, like Sam, that's like being eaten. So it's like one way you're being eaten, one way you're being out.
It always comes back to the question of what is on the other side of the Black Gate. Is it a weird butt? Is it another face? But no, you're right. It is symbolically, it's the backside. And this all does go back to Yggdrasil having a muddy backside. Basically, like Azor Ahai goes in the front of the Weirwood net. He breaks in the front door, and everybody escapes out the back door. And everybody is the green men spirits.
Bran escapes out the back door. No, it's like in the show, it's like the others and whites are all invading through the front door. They finally got through. And that place had a back door. Why did we never cover this?
Well, Cold
But
Hands mentions there's a sinkhole 3 miles north of that is a back door to the Weir Cave. And Preston Jacobs' time traveling Bran uses that in his theory. I prefer the idea that they will escape in the underground river, which is another kind of backdoor exit. So that's going to take them back to the Nightfort. In any case, let's see here. The Night's Watch, yeah, they might be smuggling babies to the others through that gate, just as Bran is smuggled through the gate. So that's all. You can see how that could all be related to the Rat Cook.
well, and Craster is giving babies to the others by going into the forest. They're giving these babies by going out a weirwood door. So it's the same idea.
And of course, if you've missed any of the shit symbolism over the past couple weeks, Craster's hill that he lives on, the Night's Dollar said jokes about it being a mound of his poop. But then there's a whole thing with Euron talking about his sons being like the contents of his chamber pot, and basically the others are like white poos. So
Yeah. No. And the other week, the Hound shits better men than the Brotherhood without banners.
yep, we saw that. We saw that. And then so the one thing I do notice, it's like, oh well, he baked the prince, the king's son, the prince, in a pie. And if the rat cook is referring to Weirwood stuff, well, what's this pie with people in it? Is that Weirwood paste? Is the king the one who served the pie? Was he trying to become a green seer? Was somebody eating Weirwood paste at the Nightfort? And the other thing about this Andal king, like calling somebody an Andal king kind of dates it to near the Andal invasion. Because once the Andals are joined into the houses of Westeros, you wouldn't call him an Andal king. He would just be king of house whatever. So the idea that it's an Andal king, it sounds like he's still got that Andal identity. He's fresh from Andalos, and he's up north at the wall. So it's very mysterious. But I do start to wonder, like, why did somebody journey all the way up to the wall who didn't really belong there? Was this someone who felt the call to be a green seer for some reason?
So, everything else aside, at some point, we know that the Night's Watch ate a huge cultural influx of basically the Andals, because we know that because their vows changed, right? Like we have the first half, which is what Sam recited to the door to get in, and
True.
then the second half, that's all just like canned Andal culture. Like every little society they make, whether it's like we made the Seven Kings Guard to honor the seven gods, whether it's the Silent Sisters or Septons or Septas, whatever, they all swear to hold no lands. They will father no children. They blah 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 blah. Like it's all the same stuff that the Night's Watch swear. And I mean, one of the things that we both talked about is that the original Night's Watch, being green men, having skin changer powers, like the way that you transmit that is through blood. So it couldn't have been all, they could not have all been sterile. They could not have all been celibate, right?
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So at some point, we had a big Andal infusion of culture into the Night's Watch. At some point, they, donated a bunch of men and therefore had a bigger say in how the Night's Watch works. And we kind of get an echo of that in Robb talking about his heir. Robb is talking about how, Sansa is gone, Arya's probably dead, Bran and Rickon are dead. He has no heir. He wants his heir to be Jon Snow. And his mom's counterpoint is that he can't. He made his vows. And he's like, if I donated 100 men, I'll bet they'll find a way to get him out of his vows. So it's like, yes, there is a precedent for, donating a bunch of men or strength or power or money or supplies to the Night's Watch and having a say in how it works or getting them to bend their rules.
Yeah, that does make sense. The idea that the Night's Watch vows changed and became more complicated after the Andals came. And we know that most Night's Watchmen now swear their vows in the Sept. And it's only the old ones who go out to the Grove of Nine and stuff. So we do see that there are these two, there's an older version of the tradition and a newer one. I was thinking maybe the Andal King if he's going there to be a green seer, then he's got to have some first man blood. So maybe he's like first or second generation in Westeros, where his parents are like one Andal and one first men. And then he's having dreams. Like, how else does he go into the Nightfort? You'd be called there by a dream. That's what it sounds like. He's going up there and he's eating the pie. Whether it's his son or not, like these could be two different legends that got mixed up. One is a legend about cannibalism. The other is a legend about somebody going to the Nightfort and eating weirwood paste. And then getting
really,
transformed into a weirwood tree. That's what happens, right? Or no, it's the person that serves
really,
it.
And George 100% always finds a way to have some type of, weirwood paste adjacent thing stand in every time he's having this go into the weirwood net moment. Like I was reading a chapter the other day and it was Arya eating some type of like white gruel and she bit her lip. So it had blood in it. So it was kind of like the weirwood paste. And she was talking about how thick and gross it was. And then it like started to taste better and blah,
There's
blah, blah.
poor, yeah, all that slime. I hate slimy food, so all that stuff just grosses me out. But yeah, there's the acorn paste that Jojen and Amira feed Bran over and over before they get to the night for it. Yeah, so potential parallel. Mary Mazdor feeds Dany's baby to the darkness, which led to Dany gaining magic. So did this Andal King actually mean to sacrifice his son in order to gain magic power? That's something that people do in the story. Euron can't wait to do it.
Well, and from a certain perspective, that's what Stannis is doing.
Yes, with the shadow babies. Exactly right. So you see how this all lines up. The same guy that's eating the weirwood paste, potentially, he's sacrificing his child, so maybe he's gaining magic. Whether he's an Andal or not, that could be part of the other. There could be two myths getting mixed together, but that's what I made out of that. Now, there's also Kronos. We're going to talk about Kronos a lot today, and that's one reason why I was happy to have you on, Sean, for your extra knowledge of context of Greek myth and stuff. But Kronos, one of the main famous things about him is that he eats his young, right?
Right, yeah. He eats, of the Olympian gods, a lot of them are his kids, right? 6 of them. He eats 5 of them before he is bamboozled by having a rock shoved in his mouth with like mustard plants and stuff. It's gross.
This bread's really hard. And so, well, tell the rest of the story. What happens?
Right. Well, I think we have to back up actually to how Kronos got power in the first place, right?
Okay.
So we have Oranos and Gaia, Oranos being the sky, Gaia being the earth. You've talked about it before. We talked about it on our gods stream. So, they're occupying all of creation. So there's essentially no place for their kids to exist and to have domains, etc. At a certain point, Kronos, 3 of his brothers, all representing the cardinal directions and seasons, they hold Kronos down, or so they hold Oranos down, and Kronos, detesticalizes him.
And so let me pause you right there. So the idea here is that Oranos isn't the empty sky. He's the seeming dome of the sky. So before the dome was way up there with all this air in the middle for everyone to live in, the dome was flat on the earth. So that's Oranos lying on Gaia. They are pressed together. There's no atmosphere. There's nowhere for anyone to exist. So Gaia's children can't be born. They're just inside of her.
Right.
Okay.
The warrior lay athwart the maiden.
Right. Yes. And so the connection between them is the sexual organ connection. So when Kronos is severing the genitals of Oranos, he's breaking apart the sky and the earth. He's separating the firmament above and the earth so that there is space for Gaia's children to then be born. We see that motif all over Mesopotamian myth. It's in the Bible as well, separating the waters above and the waters below to create space in between for everyone to live in.
Right.
Go ahead.
They always thought it was another ocean. If you see the vast blue ocean down here, and then you see vast blue up there, and every once in a while water comes down from
Once in a while the water comes down, so there must be water up there. It's sound logic.
Right. So you separate the firmament from the firmament, separate the waters from the waters, depending on which language you use in the Bible. That's the idea. So they castrate Oranos and essentially kill him. the what's left after the castration becomes Venus and rises back up to the heavens, and that's a morning star, even star motif there. But
Right, the falling balls and sperm and blood and things become various stuff.
the werewood paste,
Aphrodite, the Malii, and the Furies, and a few other things.
yeah, that's the werewood paste. Then the Kronos, he's in a similar situation because that's kind of how godhood works. Your son takes over from you, and so there's always going to be like a prophecy. And just as Kronos seized power from Ouranos, we had Zeus eventually seize power from Kronos because Rhea, Kronos' wife, was really just sick unto death of Kronos eating all their kids so that he could maintain power forever. So she gave him a rock to eat instead of Zeus, and then they gave him a really gross concoction. And all I remember is that it contained mustard, and you don't want to be mixing mustard with too many things. So he threw up all of the other kids, and then they had the Titanomachy, or the Titan War. And eventually Zeus takes over. He goes to his own lengths to make sure that he doesn't have a son supplant him. So it's the same idea, but this whole idea of the sun supplanting them is something that we're seeing in this, which is why I think he brought up Kronos.
Yeah, so there's a few things. So Kronos represents the concept of time. Time consumes all because everyone dies. No one can live forever. We see that with Kali in Indian mythology. She consumes everything and also gives birth to everything because she represents cycles of time. So the Weirwood trees represent time in Ice and Fire. They exist outside of time. They govern time. They are eternal. So anything that's eternal exists outside of time. And indeed, Bloodraven uses that river of time metaphor and says the Weirwoods not moved by that river. They stand outside of it. Okay. So this all makes sense when we have the rat cook interpreted as a weirwood eating its young. The weirwoods represent time, and Kronos represents time, and he eats his young as well. There's more Kronos stuff at the Nightfort, which we'll get into further down. But yeah, and then the other thing is, just as Kronos castrated Ouranos, the Night's Watchmen at the Nightfort are symbolically castrated because they can't have children.
Yeah, well, and that gives another mythology kind of weaves its way in here with that because, wow, if they got castrated, how did John find a way to couple with Egret? And it's kind of like an Osiris and Isis thing.
Oh, right. Yes, that's true because John does have Osiris symbolism. And they joke about it. Tormund jokes about, oh, did they cut your nuts off and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
did they cut your penis off? Like, you have a wooden one in there?
Oh, right, yeah. So,
Which Osiris
and then
did.
we'll come back to Symeon Star Eyes, but he's got a sickle, and he's at the Nightfort chopping stuff. And Kronos obviously has the big sickle. So there you go. I actually need to hit the restroom real quick, Sean. So I'm gonna either turn it over to you or hit the music, one or the other.
Up to you. I'm good to go. My dogs are fed.
Go ahead and introduce King Sherritt, and I'll be right back.
Will do. Okay, so King Sherritt is a character we don't get a ton of background on, but what we do is all very good, and it all kind of resonates with the other themes we're talking about. So he called down a curse on the Andals from the Nightfort, which it reeks a lot of kind of the situation that we've created with the Freys, right? So the Freys killed a king, and then another king is wishing all sorts of death on them. Jon is probably going to become king of the North. Him, cursing the Boltons and the Freys from the Nightfort is kind of a symbolic match to this. But the Nightfort has all of this bad juju that we've been talking about. They've got rats out of time doing Kronos things, just like how the werewoods are outside the river of time, etc. But the idea is if he's calling a curse down on the Andals, that's kind of implying that he's a first men king. And that makes a whole lot of sense. And it also just kind of, it resonates well with the rat cook story, as well as just, these other symbolic parallels that we're making. The rat cook cursed a king and then did something about it, right? So, next thing is, did he curse them? Why was a king at the Nightfort? Is he the Night's king? Is he meant to represent the Night's king? Did he go there simply because it's like a hinge of the world in terms of magic, which is something that we learn from Melisandre? But these are two very parallel stories about grudges and vengeance, and they both seem to be first men on Andal violence. And that makes a whole lot of sense, just because that is what we expect to happen as retribution against the Freys. So, the Freys did something evil. They killed a king. They broke guest right. And now the first men are back to, have their vengeance here in a parallel way.
And that bathroom break made my eyes red, Sean.
Mm.
I'm going to switch into the glasses mode here.
Oh, see, I just thought you connected to the Weirwood net, and that's what made your eyes red.
Oh, I did. Washed my hands, hooked up to the Weirwood net. Praised Garth real quick. Check out our Bonfire t-shirt store at the link below, by the way. We have 2 different Garth t-shirts because that's our brand around here. All right, so I was listening to what you were saying, had the speaker up. And yeah, so again, we have a king coming to the Nightfort, just like visiting. This is weird. It doesn't have, like, Robert goes all the way north to Winterfell. He doesn't go to the Wall. Jaehaerys went there because he has prophecy business to work on. But other than that, kings don't go to the Wall.
Not since the Targaryens. But one thing that we do assume, it seemed like a very common thing for kings in the north to go to the Wall, which would kind of further compound what we're talking about. First men kings pronouncing curses on Andals from the Wall.
Yeah, it seems almost like this is happening during the Andal invasion. If he's cursing the Andals in particular, it's almost like somebody who's lost their lands and is desperate, and he went all the way to the Nightfort to try just to call this curse down as like a last resort, almost like the last hero seeking out the children. This first man king is like, man, maybe we'll go up to the Nightfort and call down a curse on these MFers because I can't think of anything else to do.
Well, and one thing that I like about this is that it's a very good parallel to what they accuse the Children of the Forest of doing. So when you talk about the Children of the Forest calling down the Hammer of the Waters, sometimes they say they did it from the Isle of Faces. Sometimes they say they did it from Moat Cailin, another wall. So it's like the first men doing it from the big ice wall, the Children of the Forest doing it from Moat Cailin. Apparently walls, or maybe more accurately hinges of the world, are good places to call down curses.
You're right, and the whole it mirrors the Hammer of the Waters legend, where the children are calling down this magic to stop an invasion. So this would be a first man calling down a curse on the Andals to try to stop an invasion. So is the myth garbled? Is there some like crosstalk there? This older story of calling down a curse to stop the invaders became later attributed to first men and Andals? Or did a first man remember the older legend and try to mimic it? I think that's more likely. For example, there's a Storm King fighting the Andals. He seeks out the Children of the Forest and then forms the Weirwood Alliance to hold them off for a couple generations. He was surely thinking of the Last Hero story, like, oh, we're in trouble. What do we do? Maybe we'll seek out the Children of the Forest and get some magic help,
Yeah. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
So it's something like that. The other idea is that maybe he took the black. Maybe this is a first man king who lost the battle and ended up taking the black instead of being executed. And so now that he's at the Wall, he's like, well, yeah, oh, there's some magic here. Let's go ahead and curse those people that I have this giant grudge against. That can make sense.
That is an interesting take, just because that is kind of something that we actually see happen. So when the Rhoynar invade Dorne, Nymeria ends up sending a number of kings to the wall in golden chains.
Maybe this, yeah, yeah. Exact
So
similar
again,
situation. This is a Vorian Dane type of
right.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an echo again, like history is rhyming again. And then we see echoes of it with the idea that Jon Stark is probably going to become king in the north, or either way, he has the symbolism of a king either way. Ned Stark is the archetype for a winter king, whether he was a lord or a king or not, and he was supposed to go to the wall before Joffrey took his head. So we're seeing this idea played out a lot, whether it comes to direct literal fruition or not.
So let's think about the Azor Ahai Knights Kingness of all this, right? What's the original story here? Like the invaders, the original invaders are the Great Empire of the Dawn Dragon Lords, Bloodstone Emperor. He seems to be invading at Old Town, and this seems to be the impetus for Azor Ahai coming to Westeros. It seems to be an invasion, and if the whole like Nissa Nissa is a child of the forest thing has merit, which it does seem to have merit, there's basically two possibilities. One, Nissa Nissa is from the east, from the Isle of Lang, connected to the Old Ones and all that stuff, or the Great Empire of the Dawn is coming to Westeros to interface with Weirwood magic. And so Bloodstone Emperor finds Nissa Nissa in Westeros. That could be plausible too. Point is, this idea of like, these are the invaders. So who's going to the Nightfort to call down a curse to stop the invaders? That would be the creation of the others as a defense of Westeros against Bloodstone Emperor. Because it's the same, like Azor Ahai invading the Weirwood Net is the same thing as Bloodstone Emperor invading Westeros. The Weirwood Net represents the earth, represents nature, the green realm, if you will, of the Green King. That's Westeros. And it's being invaded by these Dragon Lords. So
Right.
this really could be a story about this. It's like a spin on Night's King. It's spinning Night's King as or Last Hero rather, as like a creation of the others to help defend Westeros. And that lines up with the idea of like the Children of the Forest turning the trees to warriors in their battles with the First Men. Those First Men would actually be the Great Empire of the Dawn invaders, according to this like layer of it.
Well, and one of the oldest ideas that's at play here, we've talked about it in this stream, is that the Weirwoods were not originally like that. Like the fact that they're all carved and bloody, that they seem like they're screaming, that they're white with red blood, like that is not how they're supposed to be. That is kind of a perversion. So the idea is, like when you talk about calling down a curse, yes, you're cursing your enemies, but you're cursing yourself as well too. What you have to become in order to defeat them, whether that's creating the others, whether that's creating undead skin changer Night's Watch, it's a curse, and it has affected everything. It's affected the Weirwoods, which are unnatural, immortal plants. Trees
So
aren't supposed to
Christian,
be immortal.
so check this out. Christian Law in the chat just brought up the parallel of Green Garen and the Valerians, and that is a perfect analogy. So I want to thank you, Christian, because this will help make this more clear. All right. Green Garen represents Green Garth. That's
Right.
not hard. It's almost the same
Garen Gray.
name.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he's hung in a golden cage and
Mhm.
killed. He watches all of his people die. That's comparable to Renly in the green tent, the green magical castle alive with light, and he's burned. And all of his soldiers transform into others. Okay. So think about the scenario with the Valerians, right? The Valerians are the ones who get turned into the stone men. And the line is, they who were the lords of fire, their breath is now cold under the water, or something like that. Okay? And we see the stone men on the Bridge of Dream. They're like whites. They're mindless. They're cold. They're stone men. They're just like the whites have stone hands. And they live on this Bridge of Dream, which is kind of like the wall. Okay? So think about this. Green Garen, he's the green man.
Well, sorry, I have to real quick. Two things. One, Prince Garen the Great, was not Nymeria's brother, just from the chat. They were they were of two complete. One was a prince and one was a princess of completely different territories.
Correct.
I'm not. Was he Green Garen? I only ever heard him called Garen the Great.
Oh, no. Green Garen is that's Arion's friend from Planky Town.
Right. So
I was
the
combining
archetype
those.
obviously is the same idea, but I did want to make that distinction.
To say that clearly, George is named Green Garen in the main story Green Garen to help us think about Garen the Great as a green Garth type.
And he calls down the curse.
Right. And he's the Lord of the River. The Roinar River, the River Roin, is the river of time. We've seen it. It has time loops. So it's a very good symbol of this Weirwood River of time. So Garen he's the Garth in charge of this green domain. Then the Dragon Lords invade. Okay? Just like Bloodstone Emperor Azor Ahai is invading the Weirwood Net and invading Westeros. Then the Green Man in death calls down the curse. And what does it do? It transforms the Dragon Lords into other-like beings who now live under the cold water. That's like the others living under the icy pond. Their voices are like the cracking of a winter lake. If the wall is like the surface of the frozen pond, they're under the surface in the north. So it's hold on. So it's just showing you the Valyrians essentially invading the River of Time and getting turned into the others by the curse of the dying Green Man. So if we compare that to this myth, we've got a first man king going to the Nightfort, calling down a curse on the invaders. So yes, the invaders could be the first dragon lords who get turned into the others. It could be a thing. Go ahead.
Well, and that is calling out to something that we really want to emphasize, is that the others, we called them blue bloods, we called them, like reformed green men, but they're dragon people. Like there is an endless amount of symbolism for the others as dragon people.
Because they're green sport. Because this can sound confusing to people. They're green man spirits from the Weirwood tree, but the spirits are homeless. They need bodies. The bodies come from knights, king, and queen, taking their children, just like Craster's children become they become the ice bodies of the others, or they fortify the spells or something like that. So those icy bodies are born of Knights King and Queen. If Knights King is Azor Ahai, then that's what's happening. Knights Queen is the ice sorceress. She's taken that fiery seed and soul of Azor Ahai and turning it cold. And that's why the others have that cold fire and they're like ice dragons. So they're both like Azor Ahai's cold children and like cold green men spirits. That's why they're both.
Right. Well, another parallel that we should, keep in mind for that is, so again, Craster, giving his children to the others when they're men, or when he does not have a boy, when he has a little girl, what does he do? He gives them a sheep, right?
Right.
And what were the Valyrians doing before they had dragons?
They were shepherds.
They were shepherds. And we hear
and Craster might be a Targaryen if he's related to Maester Aemon or Bloodraven. Both of those are credible theories. So that would be similar.
Maester Aemon theory a lot better, but yeah, it's possible. And we get the direct kind of procreative element of that when Dany is in what city is it when she's negotiating for the Unsullied. And the guy is, that's right, Astapor, and he's making all of these slights about her because he doesn't know she speaks Valyrian, and he says like blah blah blah, like this city was great back before Targaryens were shagging sheep,
Yeah.
So it's like, as much as that's a pretty common slur that a lot of the old world used to say about different countries, like the Welsh shag sheep, whoever, but like it's also, that's a procreative act with horned sacrificial animals, and they became dragon people. So it's something that we should pay attention to.
Yeah, it's definitely a theme that unites them. And I think some of this might come from Apollo symbolism, being a shepherd, the Valyrians being shepherds, and Rhaegar with his harp and Apollo's harp and stuff like that. But But yes, the Craster's sheep as sons, that mimics the idea of, Valerian, Azor Ahai's children. Yeah. And that's why I think Craster probably is a Targaryen. So
Well,
that would just
and
make the
whether he
most
is
sense.
or
He's
he's not,
practicing incest and he's a shepherd. Like, come on.
yeah. Well, in they call it, Craster's Keep, and that fits pretty well with the Red Keep. And frankly, the Red Keep is just I mean, we talk about King's Landing being kind of just a metaphor for like a meteor impact location, right? If the meteor is a king coming
Hmm.
down, like, well, Craster, it sounds a lot like Crater Keep.
Oh, I didn't know where you're going with that. It's the brown keep as opposed to the red keep, like the brown dragon versus the red dragon. But yeah, you're right. Crater's keep. That's good.
Well, and we
I
we
think his face is cratered too.
I just read a chapter with Tyrion where he's, they're talking about a lot of this kind of stuff, and Tyrion is eating mutton.
Tyrion is what?
Eating mutton.
I'm when? Where?
Like lamb in the Red Keep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back on track here. I feel like
Yeah.
we're spiraling out a lot today.
Yeah.
I think we're doing all right, but let's get back on here. We've only done 2 so far of 9. Symeon Star Eyes. Okay, this will be simple.
Right.
Not. Okay, so he sounds like a very powerful wizard. He went to the wall to watch the Hellhounds fight. That's one thing we know about him. And we know that he replaced his eyes with 2 blue star sapphires. And apparently that he could see out of those because he was still a great fighter. And he had a pole axe or a double-bladed scythe, I guess you'd say. And he spun it around so he could chop 2 men at once. So it's perfect folklore in that it sounds a little bit, it's super powered, but it's also a little silly and impractical, right?
Right. Yeah. And it just, I really like it. Aside from like Hellhound is not a taxonomical classification. So when we talk about Hellhounds, like, yes, that can refer to dogs. It can refer to underworld dogs. It can refer to the dire wolves. It can refer to, I mean, it refers very well to Ghost, who is, like a weirwood, red-eyed, like, I mean,
All the
Ghost.
Starks are hellhounds. They all have fiery eye descriptions, every single one.
Right.
And when Theon sees them in the dreams, they're even worse.
Right.
Anytime we see the wolves in dreams, they're more hellish. And we've talked about this before. George took the idea of 3-headed Cerberus the Hellhound and split it off into 3-headed Targaryen dragon sigil and 1-headed Stark direwolf hellhound. And then the Starks rule that, you go to Winterfell, what's the main thing? The crypts, the underworld. And they've all got dogs guarding that. So it's very Cerberus. It's not cryptic. We don't need to hit that one over and over. The point is, when we see hellhounds fighting at the wall, that sounds like Starks fighting at the wall because we know that happened. Night's King was probably a Stark, and he was thrown down by Brandon the Breaker, who was a Stark. So, this sounds like those Starks fighting at the wall. That's what it sounds like. And of course, we see this Hellhounds fighting motif repeated in the crypts when Summer and Shaggy Dog come out of the darkness fighting each other, and the Shadow Wolves are on the wall. So it's literally we're watching the Hellhounds fight in the crypts, but also on the wall. It's very intentional language.
And they're in the shadow of these statues, these stone statues, because stone just means dead. Like we were talking earlier about these, stone men being Valyrians. There was a stone statue of a direwolf in next to most of them. So like when we're talking about these, it's the same idea with the direwolves at the wall being underworld figures. That's compounded when you go down into a crypt and see a stone one.
So this could, you think of like Night's King fighting the last hero, and last hero might be, the Cold Hands version, undead. So you got a zombie versus some sort of other transformed dude. This is, two creatures of the underworld fighting, for sure.
Right. And maybe they're controlling direwolves or hounds themselves. And that's, so it's happening on more than one level, because that's certainly the implication we always get with ancient Starks.
Now, the interesting thing about Symeon with his star sapphire blue eyes is it implies him as an ice wizard. He's either an other or he's a Stark wielding ice magic. You know, some part of this legend is about one of those things. And of course, Stark wielding ice magic would be Bran the Builder building the wall, which happened at the Nightfort. So that could be mixed up in here. But again, Night's King might be a Stark. So,
yes,
yeah.
well, and kind of an understated aspect to this is when we talk about sapphires, we kind of have to look at the theme of like sapphic. You know, there's a loss of fertility there that we see in the wall, and we see these children getting snatched and turned into others because they, you know, the others can't produce their own children. Symeon is playing with that by having sapphires in his eyes. Like it didn't have to be sapphires. They could have just been blue star eyes like the others. They brought up sapphires to invoke that.
Perhaps. It makes more sense in Brienne's plot, obviously.
Right.
But I guess it does fit with the general not having children thing.
Well, it fits with the idea that, you know, like Brienne is, you know, her gender issues are pretty well stated. Like, is she a man? Is she a woman? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's obviously she's a woman, but symbolically she's playing it both ways all the time.
She's a lady and a sir in Westerosi society. She is both. That's probably the best way to say it. And
Right.
I also said that, you know, I'm predicting she might become Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. And somebody's like, oh, well, who's going to carry on the line of Tarth? You know, and it's like, well, does Brienne seem like she's about to get pregnant and pop out some kids to you?
No. And the idea of her joining the Kingsguard, that's another loss of fertility motif.
That's the whole point. It's like if she joins the Kingsguard, then she can't carry on the line of Tarth. Doesn't really seem like she's interested in that. So I don't know. There's got to be a cousin or something somewhere, right?
I mean, Andrew came from somewhere, right?
Totally. Yeah. Pod Payne, castle's yours. Change your name. Yeah. So yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe Jaime will. That would be funny if her and Jaime had a baby. But I don't know. I don't really see that.
Well, this is interesting because there's the implication that they may not actually be original Tarths just because we know she's descended from Dunk. And Dunk, as far as we know, did not get married.
True.
So, like, was a baby passed off at somebody at a certain point in the way that Jon
Might
is
have
being
been some
passed
funny
off
business,
to somebody
yeah.
else? Yeah, so, you know, who is who, really? And we don't know.
So, okay. So, getting back to Symeon,
Right.
there's a strong comparison to Bran. And this is the first time we hear about him, is when Bran thinks about being a knight together with Hodor. And essentially, you know, he thinks, oh, I could be a knight, you know, Hodor could be my legs. And Lewin says, well, a man's got a man's arms and his legs and his weapon. It's all got to be as one. But the thing is, eventually Bran does fight in Hodor's body, and they do fight as one using the psychic bond of, you know, green searing skin changer magic. And so basically, there's this theme of using magic to overcome physical disabilities. Symeon is blind, but he gets magic eyes, and then he can still fight. Bran lost the use of his legs, but he could still fight with Hodor and be a knight.
You'll never walk again, but you'll fly.
Right, and that's ultimately where it's going, is using Weirwood magic. But yeah, it's when he thinks about Hodor, right after his accident, that they bring up Symeon's Star Eyes. So there is this theme that applies to Bran about using magic to overcome disabilities. And if we want to translate that into the real world, magic is just a stand-in for creativity, you know, whatever you use to compensate or overcome the things that are challenging you. So,
Yeah, I mean, wheelchairs did not exist back in that time, but now we have them, right? I mean, they had some sort of primitive wheelchairs, but it wasn't a great, like, now wheelchairs are a lot more usable and accessible everywhere. But
he had Hodor and a basket.
Right.
And so, you know, Symeon Star Eyes, he goes to the Nightfort to watch the Hellhounds fight. The Nightfort is where Hodor is going to be Hodored. And that's what enables Bran to do the mind meld with him. The Hodoring itself might involve a Bran Hodor psychic contact, as it did on the show, in the moment of the Hodoring. And so it makes sense that Symeon Star Eyes is brought up as soon as Bran and Hodor are brought up, and all this stuff is foreshadowed.
Well, and here's kind of an interpretation that I kind of, it's, so we see a direwolf just south of the wall with Bran fighting in front of Jon. And by a different interpretation, Jon is a hellhound. So like Jon and Summer both being there when Summer attacks those wildlings, those are the hellhounds fighting. They're not fighting each other, but does it ever actually say they fought each other? It just says the hellhounds fight.
That's true. Shaggy and Summer are fighting in the crypts,
Right.
and Night's King and Last Hero fight. But you're right. Technically, it doesn't.
Yeah, so it would be very much like George to, interpret something multiple different ways that completely changes the meaning while still technically being what he, mapped out.
So let me build on that idea for you. Check this out. Simon, the name Simon means listening or to hear. And that is there's a variant of it, Shimon, which would be Hebrew, and that means God has heard. So, Symeon Star Eyes, his name means listening star eyes, or God, praying to God star eyes. God has heard star eyes. So, was he using his star eyes as extrasensory perception? Was he using Hellhound Cam? Like to your point, Sean, maybe the Hellhounds are Symeon's Hellhounds. If he's a Stark, then those Hellhounds might be his. And so maybe he is seeing out of the eyes of his wolves. You could do that if you were blind and you were a skin changer. You could just look out the eyes of your wolf and see yourself from a third person perspective. So, yeah, his listening star eyes, maybe like he's got that extrasensory thing going on, and he's listening through the eyes of his wolves. You're muted.
I said, if only, Aemon, if only.
Oh, yeah, Master Aemon, he doesn't have a wolf. Oh, but he does say to Sam, you'll be my eyes. That's interesting. Or maybe, does he say it to Jon? Must say to Sam.
I don't remember. I'm lost on that one, but he does spend a lot more time with Sam.
So, okay, the mythical astronomy of Symeon is essentially a cross between a world axis tree and the Night's King. He's a little bit of both. So, the cosmic axis, of course, is the line between, I've got my globe here for demonstration. So, wherever you're standing in the northern hemisphere and you look up to the North Star, and you draw an imaginary line between you and the North Star, it appears that the canopy of stars is turning around this central pillar. And so that is called the cosmic axis or the axis mundi. And in mythology, it is imagined as a tree, a big invisible tree. And that's the idea of Yggdrasil being able to span the 9 realms of the cosmos, because it is this celestial axis that the entire framework of the universe is hinged to. Okay. So at the Nightfort, we have the cosmic world tree of the Weirwood. And we know it's specifically a model of Yggdrasil because it's by the well. And Yggdrasil is very famous for having these 3 wells. Okay. So we've got the cosmic axis at the Nightfort. And basically the stars are the tree's canopy in this scenario. And so let's see here. I said that, 9 realms of the universe. And the Nightfort Weirwood is specifically like that. It is also like Mimir's Well, of course. Mimir's Well lies at one of Yggdrasil's roots in Niflheim, which is the land of the ice giants. So we've got this well in the north. And it has Mimir's talking head by the well, just as we have the Black Gate. So Odin tosses one eye in the well for a drink, And Martin has the Weirwood look like it's trying to pull the moon down into the well, and the moon is described as an eye many times in the story. So, the Nightfort tree is like a model of the Norse world tree, and Symeon came here. But Symeon himself is also like the Axis Mundi. So first of all, there's a couple reasons why. Hang on a sec. One, he's got the blue star eyes and he's at the Nightfort. So the North Star in Ice and Fire is a blue star eye. It's either the eye of the Ice Dragon or the rider of the Ice Dragon, which is George's version of Draco, which wraps around the pole star. And so, if you think about the cosmic axis at the Nightfort, it's like a big invisible tree or person, and its head is this blue eye of the Ice Dragon up in the sky. So Symeon is like that. He's standing at the Nightfort with blue star eyes. Then we've got this idea of his axe, his double pole axe. So it's basically both blades are like moon crescents, and they're spinning around him, and he's in the center. So this is like Westeros used to have two moons, not Westeros, Planetos used to have two moons. So those moon crescents are spinning around the cosmic axis. So that's Symeon's blade. And really, Symeon is just the tree. He's the Nightfort tree that the moons are orbiting around.
Well, it doubles very well as like a North Star, North Pole, Pole Star versus South Pole. Like it's the Axis Mundi going from north to south. Like the idea that
his weapon is a pole.
Right. So, pole arm. Yeah, no, it's great. All the way around. And it's actually represented pretty well in Tormund, who's an obvious Thor figure. He's got all these nicknames like Giant's Bane and Thunder Fist that are all very Thor coded. Mm-hmm. And then he's got Mund in his name, Mundi, Axis Mundi. And it just works very well because Thor is associated with the oak. People used to pray to oaks to pray to Thor. So him as like an oak tree, what the Weirwoods presumably used to be, being the cosmic axis from one to the other.
So Tormund is like an oak tree and the cosmic axis, right? And right. So that's what Symeon is. He is like a Weirwood tree. He's like an invisible man with his head up in the stars with a blue eye at the Nightfort, swinging the moons around him. And somebody mentioned Sun Wukong in the chat. Sun Wukong, he's got a black staff that also represents the Axis Mundi, the cosmic axis. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so when we think of the Nightfort tree attempting to grab the moon, that's Symeon's star eyes as the tree swinging the moon around on a pole. It's the same thing. It's like the tree wants to swing the moons around and use them as weapons. Okay.
Yeah, you wonder how he lost the second moon. Tried to swing it at the sun. It got too close.
Maybe something like that. Maybe. Yeah, the Weirwood tree was trying to pull the sun down earlier in the day. That is true. And then so in the Bran the Builder video, we saw that the Weirwoods have a lot of giant symbolism. And the Black Gate is a giant head. So this Weirwood tree, it is like a giant person. And also, the Black Gate, the giant head, is blind. Just like Symeon Star Eyes is blind. So Symeon Star Eyes, he might be a person, but he really does seem like a description of this Weirwood organism at the Nightfort. All the symbolism is the same.
Yeah, well, and he's not the only one. Like we've identified the Rat King with it and rats in general with these Weirwoods in the Nightfort specifically. The more kind of parallels we get to it, the more information we're getting about it. So like the Nightfort is an Axis Mundi location. It's central. And we know that already because we know the entire wall is what Melisandre calls a hinge of magic, of existence. What exactly that means, we don't know, but we do know that her magic is stronger there, stronger even than in Ahai.
And a hinge also has that swinging, turning implication of the axis, okay? And so it gets worse. Um, so the Black Gate is blind, Symeon is blind. And when we think about that northern sky where Draco is the ice dragon, well, Canis Major and Minor are in the northern sky right next to Draco. So those are the hellhounds that are fighting in the north, or at least the mythical inspiration for it. So yeah, and Rhaegar and Lyanna are up there. The Lyre, is up there. Lyra.
Well,
So yeah,
and what I love is that there's a secret third dog. So like you have Canis Major, Canis Minor, but then you also have Sirius. So like when you had the Hellhounds fighting in the crypt, you also had the Stone Hellhound looking on.
oh, interesting. The dog star, Sirius. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on, Code Food's got something for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure that I can answer that question, Morris. Deep Lake is near the Nightfort, and some people have wondered about that. Donald Noy means flooded fort.
I don't know what language tree that is looking at, but I mean, the idea of Deep Lake being another frozen lake, like there's going to be some Satan implications, Lucifer implications, and that there's a lot of that in the others. There's a lot of Morning Star, Even Star stuff going on with them, specifically in the context of Lucifer and the frozen lake, which is something that we see in the Seven Layers of Hell, Dante's Inferno, the Divine Comedy. So like holding off the icy satanic army is kind of a function of the Nightfort, but I don't know if it'll necessarily come to anything in the narrative.
Like if the wall melts, that'll flood the night. I don't know why that's important, though. I mean, I guess we can't get down to the Black Gate anymore. I guess. But I don't really have anything else other than that. Oh, Kirsty, I love you, Kirsty, but every time you try to cram like so much into these messages, there's no way I can ever decode these like quickly and respond to them. Like you've got to put this stuff in Discord. I can never follow these. I know that you've got a point, but I can't fluidly integrate that into the presentation. I'm sorry. Now let's see here. Where are we?
Okay. I think I see what she's going for, though. Like, the story about from the Rhoynar Long Night with the gods and the turtle and the river freezing and all that. It's more river frozen in time stuff crossed with the moon. So it fits pretty well. But
she's referring to Native American myths in shorthand that I've never heard of. So I can't possibly hope to speak on those.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so to the... Ah, yes. Okay, so you just mentioned Kronos, right? When Kronos had to cut off the balls of the sky, Ornos, he was actually aided by 4 brothers who represented the 4 cardinal directions. The northern pole, or the northern direction, his name was Koios, or Polos, as in pole star. So...
Yes.
When we think of the he represents the Axis Mundi. He's the northern pillar, and he's called Polos. So Symeon Star Eyes has a pole as a weapon, like I was saying, and Polos was a brother of Kronos. Like I said, helped him castrate. So he's helping wield the sickle in a sense. Let's see. So Kronos, he attacks the sky with a sickle. Symeon Star Eyes has a sickle, which he swings through the sky in the sense that the blades are his moons. So he's swinging his sickle up in the sky as well, like Kronos.
Yeah, it also just...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It fits pretty well. Anytime you're using the moon or the crescent shape as a weapon, it doubles very well as a sacrificial symbol. So like sacrificing people before a weirwood.
Right, we see that the moon was a crescent thin as the blade of a knife over and over again in Bran's chapter when he's using the Weirwood.
Right.
And we see more cosmic axis stuff. The whites are shuffling around the Weirwood tree and the cleft in the hill. So, so just as Kronos' sickle cuts open the sky, the Nightfort kitchen has the broken dome. The dome symbolizes Oranos, the sky, and it's broken. It's been cut. And through that hole is where the Weirwood is trying to pull the sickle moon down. So we are really using the moon to attack the dome of the sky. It is just a perfect depiction of Kronos and Oranos.
Pull down that testicle.
And then the wolf leaps down through the gap later. Like
just in case. Just in case, it was never heavy-handed enough.
And so, the Nightfort Weirwood, like Kronos, it's attacking the heavens through the hole in the dome, which it is implied as having created. We said that Kronos is eternal. The Weirwoods represent time. So basically, Symeon and the Weirwood are both acting like the Axis Mundi at the Nightfort, attacking the sky, swinging the moon around like a weapon. And just as the Nightfort Weirwood wants to drag down the moon, Night's king, of course, chased Night's queen and caught her and loved her and brought her back to the Nightfort. And Night's queen is like the moon. Her skin is as pale as the moon. So there's the personal layer that echoes the mythical astronomy. But the point is, Night's king is like the Weirwood. Mm-hmm. Because Night's king is a Weirwood sorcerer.
To kind of pile onto that, we have this Night's king figure. We have this Kronos figure, Kronos representing time. But time usually in the context of seasons, because, of course, he wields a sickle. And in the four brothers who were holding Kronos down, or Oranos down, they're associated with different seasons. Whenever you see the Greeks, they always associated the north with winter. They associated the west with fall, the east with spring, and the south with summer. So, bringing that into it, we have a bunch of themes like that about the sword that slays the seasons, or basically, the sword that stops the seasons from turning, so that we're kind of stuck in the long night. And that is what happens with Symeon Star Eyes, swinging his moon swords, bringing on the long night, through that act of, destroying a moon with the sun and the fallout and bringing the long night. That is slaying the seasons. It's not progressing them, it's stopping them from happening.
Right. So that's where the harvest symbolism comes in. It's reaping and death and all that stuff.
Right. And if you're not reaping corn, you're reaping souls, which is why the inverse of your corn king with his sickle
becomes the Grim Reaper.
Right. Yeah. Now you're a skeletal guy on a boat bringing souls with your reaper.
And so when we have this, so we've got the Nightfort swinging the moon around, attacking the sky. We've got the Night's king capturing the moon-like Night's queen here and causing the long night, potentially. And Azor Ahai similarly broke the moon and caused the long night. He broke the dome of the sky. He turned the moons into giant symbolic blades. That's the whole point about them being like flaming swords. And Lightbringer itself may be a sword made from a moon meteor, just as Symeon's blades are moons. So that level of correlation just helps tighten up the idea that, Azor Ahai and Night's King is either the same person or at least the same archetype, and there's a strong connection.
Well, and to kind of pull on your roots here, the original Lucifer means Lightbringer fella. Lightbringer is the sword of the morning star. So, when we talk about, heralding the dawn and all of that, which makes sense in a long night scenario, who is wielding Lightbringer? Well, if you're in the night and you are trying to slay the night in order to bring the dawn, you've got the moon and the even star fighting against the night itself in order to allow the sun to erupt. So, that's the moon wielding it. And, Symeon Star Eyes is clearly a lunar figure sitting here at the wall.
Yes, if dawn is made from a moon meteor, then it's a moon. It's like a moon sword, and it is alive with light. It looks like the other swords, which are alive with moonlight. That all tracks. So the other thing about this, so we're saying the cosmic axis is like an invisible person or an invisible tree. And in Ice and Fire, the head is the ice dragon constellation with this blue star, or the rider of the ice dragon. And so I'm saying this is like Symeon Star Eyes, who's like, it's like the Night's King. Well, who rides the ice dragon?
The other.
Yeah, I mean, it would be Night's King. It would be Azor Ahai as Night's King. It'd be the Dragon Lord, an icy Dragon Lord. I think the show got that from the books. There is some version of that truth in the books. Night King riding an ice dragon. You know, a Night King being a Dragon Lord that got frozen. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's an echo. Like, you were already going that way with it. But yeah, that's the idea. Like, it happened in ancient times, whereas, you know, in the show, they never did well with the magical elements of it. And George did not want a Dark Lord, but they just kind of wanted a simpler storyline for people to focus on and not, you know, decode so deeply and basically just be less complicated. So they put in the Night's King. But yeah, I think they absolutely stole elements from what the Night's King was supposed to be. Oh, you're muted.
I realize that.
Sorry.
Let's see. What was I saying?
Yeah, it's a good point that Cannibal the Dragon is making in chat. That the wall is referred to many times as an ice dragon, or like the tunnels beneath it are, you know, an ice dragon's belly.
Right, and so we see if Night King is Lord of the Nightfort, then he's the master of the frozen tree. He's the rider of the ice dragon. He's the one swinging the moons around. He's the master of the cosmic axis. Like, all of these are descriptions of Night's King Azor Ahai, like taking this power of the Weirwood net and breaking the seasons. So I really love how George has repurposed all this Kronos mythology, you know,
Yeah.
to
It's
make
also
this
good
happen.
Horus mythology. If you're bringing up the idea that like the night sky can represent a face, even the moon itself can represent a face, or these are
Yeah.
like the eye of gods. We've got Horus involved now, and Horus famously has a silver blue eye that is the moon. So, you know, the god's eye. Yeah, obviously there's some Odin stuff going
Well,
on. But there's
hold
Horus.
on. You're doing the quantum leaps here. Go back to stick with Horus for a second. His eyes are the sun and moon. The Weirwood tree
Right.
at the Nightfort attacks both the sun and the moon.
Right.
The sun during the day and then the moon at night.
Yeah, like any good, you know, axis mundi, it's going to have a connection to both. They are, in astronomical terms, usually the antithesis of each other. So,
And then what were you
yeah,
saying about Odin?
I mean, we look at things like the God's Eye Lake. We look at, you know, all of these one-eyed people. It's obviously Odin stuff. We see a lot of Odin stuff, but it's Horus too, and Horus is very last hero coded.
That's a great point. Yeah, George is always like, if he's doing a moon eye thing, he's going to look at all the myths that have moon eyes and sort of give them each respect by sort of bringing them all into the mix. That is how he writes. So yeah, that's a great point. We probably should think of Horus more often.
Yeah, well, and to be, you know,
He's basically the last hero in Egyptian myths. So yeah.
yeah, Horus the Avenger. He takes back his throne, defeats the evil guys. Hamlet's based on it, but yeah, it's
A one-eyed flying purple people eaters. We don't talk about those enough also.
oh god,
You were going to send me that purple shirt.
that's so bad. Yeah, so we were doing Legends of the Nightfort. I was gonna send him the purple parrots from Legends of the Hidden Temple. I was gonna wear blue barracudas. Mine got delayed, so I don't even have mine. But yeah, we couldn't get them in time.
Steerpike's sister just made a good pun. Axis moon die.
Yeah,
Moon die instead of Monday. That's funny.
yeah,
That's probably
Axis
coincidence,
die.
but
Yeah. Axis Florent in the moon dying and all that. Yeah. But yeah, Horus's eye. He lost an eye. His uncle tried to kill him, cut his eye out, and he's a falcon-headed god. Obviously, two eyes is pretty important for depth perception in birds of prey. So he had to get another eye, and the way he did it was he got some help from the moon god Khonshu, who spun him a new eye out of moonlight. So it is a moon eye in very literal terms.
yeah. Okay, so then got some more madness here that I wrote down. This was old. I redid that above in more clarity. Okay. So that's pretty much it. So yeah, Symeon's star eyes is good mythical astronomy. He seems to describe Azor High Night's King at the Nightfort, swinging the moons around like blades and attacking the sky. So you guys hopefully see what's going on there. And this is what I'm saying. All these myths are really about Night's King.
Right.
So next up is 79 Sentinels. That was the hardest one, by the way. Symeon, that was like the most complicated one. It's the one we just did. I do need to take another restroom break. Are you up for one now? Shall I play the music?
Yeah, I could go to the bathroom. That'd be good for me.
Let's do that. We'll be right back and enjoy Game of Thrones. Scandalous. David Lightbringer caught on tape doing drugs.
This den of vice.
All right. Woo. 90 seconds goes quick, doesn't it?
Oh my God. Yeah. Everybody's talking about how like deciding whether I can go to the bathroom. Like I have a catheter or a pee bucket down there. And the reality is this Green Man suit, it's really hard to get out of.
I wasn't going to wonder. I was just going to assume you took care of it somehow.
Yeah.
Does it have like a little flap?
Madison. What?
Does it have like a flap
there's a
on the
zipper
butt?
in the back. It's actually, it goes over my face.
You at least have a girlfriend to be like, to run in and help you, right?
Yeah, well, if she doesn't leave me over this.
Never know. You're taking a risk, yeah, by putting that on and putting yourself in public, that's for sure. All right. Chat is very inappropriate. I did unfortunately have to ban someone earlier. It was not because they were spamming caps lock. It was because they thought that this was a safe place to ridicule the idea that Snow White could be played by a slightly caramel complexioned person. And I don't know. This is not the place for that sort of culture war stuff. So, yeah, you wandered into the wrong chat. I'm sorry. I had to redirect. We don't do that here. So...
This place is for good vibes and harmless vices.
Yeah. Snow White's not real. Neither is Annie. Neither is Corlys Velaryon. They're fictional characters, and this is not the bastion to fight the culture war, really. It's not. I can't with those folks. I just can't. I'm not even going to get worked up about it. It's just like, it's dumb.
Let me talk you down here. Because, like, if we're talking about Snow White, we should be spelling it Wight, because George is making that pun all over the place. Jon Snow becoming a white, Snow White.
Yeah, and the seven dwarves, gosh, they're
Yeah,
the
you remember the bunch of dwarves that are eating Westeros while Dany is watching? Yeah, there's
I was thinking of seven because seven is like the Kingsguard number. We see six others plus Waymar in the prologue. So yeah,
right.
yeah. I always talk about John being Jack Frost because John
Yeah,
is Jack and Snow is Frost, but he is Snow White. Yeah, he's going to be a white, and yeah, he's Jon Snow.
there's a lot of fairy tales and nursery rhymes.
Well,
He
he's going
also
to be
messes.
kissed back to life too.
Oh,
Melisandre's going to give him the kiss of life.
yeah, it's like George. You get like a description of like long legs, and like just talking about how beautiful it is and how they're gonna wake her up, and then it turns out it's just Jon Snow, and he has very pretty effeminate features.
He is pretty. He's very pretty. And he's going to be kissed back to life. I love this. We need to think about the whole. Oh, that's. No,
Yeah,
wait.
you're gonna send everybody with that satin times John erotic fan fiction right over the edge.
Satin is Prince Charming. John is Snow. It's right there. I mean, that's cool. We need to think about the rest of the story. Like you cannot put a limit on this and say, oh, well, that's all George did. It's just oh, he had a wicked stepmother. I mean, I'm a Catelyn defender, but from John's point of view,
She's pretty
that's
awful to him. Yeah.
archetypally, yeah. I mean, it should have been you. That's pretty mean. Okay. Doesn't Charming traditionally fight a dragon?
Yes, he
Yes.
does. Well,
No,
no.
it's the dragon's in
No,
Sleeping Beauty,
yeah,
not
that's
Snow
Prince
White.
Philip in Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking of.
But they're very similar stories. They have the same common ancestor, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. He fights an evil queen, which we'll see how that goes.
If John fights Night's Queen, yeah, or Danny, yeah, I guess, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's hilarious, dude.
Well,
That's
he's going to
hilarious.
stab her either way.
See, I feel bad. I ran into some John Azor Ahai deniers on Twitter who are very silly people. They're like, you guys know Danny's my favorite character, but Danny does have a group of stans online who are very obnoxious people and mostly like 19 years old or something. I don't know. I think they're mostly on the younger side. And that's not a diss to anyone who is younger, but I'm just saying maturity is lacking. So ran into some John deniers and they don't see like, oh, John just had a stupid dream. What does that mean? Like, well, it might mean something. The author wrote it, and he has a red sword, and he's defending the wall and also slaying his love, Ygritte, like Azor Ahai slew Nissa Nissa, all in the same dream. It might mean something. Quit trying to insert a man into Danny's plot line, you sexist, you dude, bro. It's like, oh
Yeah,
man.
ugh, they're barking up the wrong tree. Like the idea that George is writing them both to have certain aspects to de-emphasize gender differentiation and gaps because George is a classic feminist is like you have to be ignoring that on purpose.
Yeah, no, the point of bringing that up was that I at a certain point, like I quote tweeted a meme, that was like, oh, here's the evidence for Danny, and it was like all Danny's evidence, and then for John, it's like, ice and fire cream pie, dude bros say he is, and then it's basically acting like there's no actual evidence for John, and the only reason people try to claim it is because they're dude bros and they want to insert a dude into the hero storyline. And something. The reason why I brought it up is because I quote tweeted that, and I started posting evidence for John. His dream, Melisandre seeing only snow, etc., all the famous stuff. And then I kind of got loose with it, right? And so I was like, oh, Jon Snow, born at the Tower of Joy, He was born beneath a bleeding Stark. And so that's the one that they seized on, and that one got retweeted like, never make theories again. What is this cracked shit? And I was like, well, I would call it a poetic echo. I was like, technically he's born beneath a literal bleeding star that got turned into Lightbringer. So maybe that's the reference to the prophecy at the Tower of Joy. I don't know. IDK. Yeah. Okay.
This stuff isn't going to play out all literally. So there are supposed to be 75 different people who are all interpretable as Azor Ahai. Like, if you have one Azor Ahai, you're doing it wrong.
Well, that's the sort of Azor Ahai is the hero monomyth of this story. Like, every little character has these little moments. But if we're talking about the actual fulfillments of prophecy, and we're looking at Jon as a potential candidate, these people like to pretend there's no evidence that there's 3 heads of the dragon refers to Azor Ahai Reborn, and that there might be, they think that's cracked and silly. So as soon as you bring up Jon, they're like, why are you looking for evidence for Jon when Dany already did it? And it's like, well, because there might be 3 of them. Don't know if you've heard that idea before.
And Rhaegar already did it too. It doesn't matter. Euron is probably the 3rd head of the dragon. He's a villain. Like, what is your point?
So my point was bringing up Lyanna was like, well, look, he's born beneath a literal bleeding star turned into a sword, which is probably Lightbringer. But he's also born beneath a bleeding Stark. And the bleeding Stark's blue roses in the dream turn into bleeding stars in the sky because Lyanna's blue roses become the eyes of death, and they're set against a blood-smeared sky.
Right.
So we've got blue star eyes and red blood in the sky as if the sky is bleeding. So the bleeding Stark has created bleeding stars. So I don't know. Maybe that's called George doing like poetic echoes and shit, you know, but they're all like, oh, bleeding Stark, what is that? I was like, dude, I can't imagine reading these books and like not being curious about this stuff. Like, anyway.
If you want, I mean, these people they're looking for a fight. They're not looking for a reasoned discussion or to try to expand their view of it. And it doesn't really have any roots in feminism. That's, but anyway, yeah, we've gone kind of far off topic.
We have.
Jon Snow
I needed to get that off my chest, apparently. But the Snow White thing, Beauty. That set me off. It did, because it was just like, yeah, if you're thinking about this story in rigid terms, you're missing so much. Jon can be Snow White. Yeah, he can. Like, I don't know. You have to think flexibly about this stuff. George is very clever and crafty. And yeah, she's a bleeding Stark. Yeah. Not only that, but like Lightbringer's forged from the heart of a woman. Nissa. Mm-hmm. So Dawn is forged from the heart of a fallen star. Lightbringer's forged in somebody's heart. Are those ideas like parallel or related? Maybe. So bleeding Stark and bleeding star, like it makes sense to have this parallel because Jon is like Lightbringer and he needs a mom. And like, I don't know, these.
Well, and the point of like a morning star being Stark against the dawn. And that's actually Stark against the dawn is a line from Sleeping Beauty. And somebody brought it up earlier. Sleeping Beauty's name is Aurora, meaning the dawn. And when she goes incognito, her name is Briar Rose, which that fits really well with Lyanna, the Blue Rose Maiden. And
that's interesting.
They're in Dorne during that memory. Dorne means thorn. So like we're talking like a briar rose is a rose with thorns. So it's, and a rose is a dawn symbol. Aphrodite as a dawn symbol herself and a morning star symbol, she is the lady of the roses. And a rose opening up is like the dawn, spreading the red, pink,
the rosy fingers of dawn. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So
and that creates the natural word pun of a rising and a rose. So yeah.
So George loves all this. He's absolutely included all of these, fairy tales, folklore, even stuff like Humpty Dumpty and Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, that kind of stuff.
Every rose has its thorn. Yeah, I was holding back, and then the chat put it in there. I had to sing it. All right, 79 Sentinels. Sure.
It was a
79
great story.
problems, and Dad is the 80th problem. He's a problem. Lord Riswell turned everybody in. So, basic story: 79 Sentinels. They run away from the wall. 79 not mutineers, but runaways. And the leader of them is a young Riswell. And so he's like, "Oh, we'll go to my dad's castle. He would love to have 79 Night's Watch runaways. That would make his life a lot easier, I'm sure." Dad didn't think so. He really had no choice. So
No,
he turned his son in. Not that they wouldn't have been caught anyway.
no, but every lord in the north would have leveled the Riswells if he had, provided sanctuary for his son in 79 Oathbreakers. Like, yeah, it's the kind of plan you make when your prefrontal cortex isn't all the way developed.
Yep. I mean, being on the wall sucks. So maybe he got sent there. He really didn't want to go. Maybe it was an awful reason, and so he just couldn't accept it. In any case, that's what happened. They were brought back to the wall, and they were planted in the ice. They dug little holes, just like we're planting plants, and they put them in there, facing north with their spears, and then they buried them. So I don't know if you want to imagine them buried alive, you can. Who knows? But the point is, they're in the ice, and they are facing north forever. They're never going to desert their post in death because they deserted it in life. So there's a lot of... It starts off with the tree symbolism. First of all, they're planted in the ice. They're holding the spears vertically like trees, or like the cosmic axis again. And, of course, there are sentinel trees in the story, and George loves nothing better than to cover sentinel trees with snow and call them snowy sentinels.
Yeah, well, and gray-green sentinels, just in case you forgot about, what he fed into that with the graybeards and green boys.
The gray-green is an important Night's Watch symbol. Yeah, green men turning dead, turning gray and dead, resurrected green men. Cold Hands is green to gray. He looks like a green man, acts like a green man, but he is gray and dead. So, same thing with a gray king. He might have he maybe was green at one point and became gray.
Yeah.
So they're planted in the ice. They're sentinels, like sentinel trees. They are sworn in eternal service. They are basically at the Nightfort. So they are, everybody swears their oath to the Weirwoods in the beginning. You have to swear your oath to the Black Gate to go through it. So these are basically mini tree people in service to the Black Gate Weirwood organism, which is a tree person. It's got a face. And when Bran is at the Nightfort, he thinks about the 79 Sentinels. Maybe they're going to wind their ghostly war horns and wake the sleepers. So the horn that wakes the sleepers, you're smiling. You must have something to add.
No, it's just very symbolic. Like, I'm going the same direction with it you are. I didn't even mean to interrupt. I guess my face was just too loud. But yeah, it's very good symbolism.
And it brings in the windy talk of the Weirwoods. So waking the sleepers might have to do with Weirwoods or Weirwood resurrection. And so, yeah, these Sentinels, they're like, basically they could be symbolizing the others or the Night's Watch. And this gets into the idea that the Night's Watch and the others are twins on either side of the wall. They both have Weirwood connections, and they both are like Weirwood people for different reasons. Hang on a second.
Well, in to compound that, you have Rob, who has been shoved full of all of this weirwood symbolism. He wins his first battle at the Whispering Wood. That's whispers on the wind, like you said. That's the language of the Green Seers. We have Symeon Star Eyes, listening, right? Because Simon means listening.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we have all of that. We have him, having a wedding / death at the twins, kind of like how Dany has a wedding / death of Drogo in her funeral pyre. But he's twins,
feathered too.
Right.
Yeah, he's turned into a tree when he dies.
Corals sprout from him. And they came up in all the Weirwood stigmata places. He got one right beneath the shoulder. He got one in the chest. He got yeah. So yeah, there was so he's got all this Weirwood symbolism, and it's all green, and that makes sense because he's named after Robert, a very obvious Green Man king. And
Right.
then we have John, who's like his twin. They're brothers who are the same age, but he's a bastard. And he's got all of the icy versions of this symbolism. He is the winter king to Rob's summer king.
So yeah, that's why it's often hard to tell if something is symbolizing the others or the Black Brothers. But the answer might be both. It might be
Yeah.
showing their sort of common origin. What I think literally happened is that there were green men in a watch at the Nightfort when there was no wall. It's just a castle built around a unique Weirwood organism that was very special and important. So just like we have the Sacred Order of Green Men watching over the Weirwoods on the Isle of Faces, there would have been a different Sacred Order of Green Men watching over the Weirwood at the Nightfort. That is what I think is going on. So when Azor Ahai is killing Nissa Nissa, he is probably also killing green men at the same time, either literally killing them or he's killing them by driving them out of the Weirwood net. It's hard to say which one.
Or, body snatching. When we talk about killing people and then putting people in those bodies, which is something that we talk about with the others, that is something that we have to look out for. And the idea of both undead Night's Watchmen to oppose the undead others and their whites, it makes sense.
And basically what I'm seeing, Sean, is that like the others are like the excised spirits of green men. The Night's Watch are like green men that have been killed and brought back to life. They're like zombie green men. That's what Cold Hands essentially is. I don't know if he's a full human being or he might actually have some green man blood, but he is acting like a green man by riding
Right.
the elk, and he is undead.
And Bran asks when Sam tells him about Cold Hands, and he says nothing that would prompt this, but he says, "Was he a green man?
Well,
Did he
it's
have
the elk. He
antlers?"
mentioned the elk. That's why he asked, oh, is
Yeah.
he a green man? Because he's riding an elk.
Well, he asked if he had antlers. He asked if Cold Hands had antlers, and it's like, well, technically yes, because he is skin changing a great elk that has antlers. So, kinda.
And so, but yeah, and so in this way, both the others and the Night's Watchmen are like green men, ex-green men. They're like tree people. So these 79 Sentinels, they are like tree people frozen in the wall. So they kind of sound like others because they are frozen. But they are kind of, and they're like sentinels, and the sentinel trees are usually snowy sentinels like the others.
Right.
But these are Night's Watchmen, and they are manning the wall in death, which is basically the idea of a zombie watchman like Cold Hands. So
Well,
hard to
to your
say.
point,
I would say they're probably applying to both.
yes,
Yeah.
100%. Because we get that imagery a lot with like, do you remember when Patchface? Of course you remember. You love Patchface. Patchface is talking about leading the ranging, and he'll blow conch shells of their coming. Like he's talking about leading a ranging of a bunch of Night's Watchmen beyond the wall and blowing horns. So of course they're ghostly war horns. Like that's the entire idea. But to your point earlier, we kind of opened this with the idea of like Frey's breaking guest right in the Rat Cook, and what happens when you don't respect guest right in the winter when things are extreme. People die, and how do they die? They freeze. So it's like if you've been excised from the Weirwood net, symbolically you've been frozen out, and now
Right.
you become the icy others.
That's like Ghost being the puppy alone out in the cold.
Right, north of the wall.
Oh, I meant when John found them, but also,
Oh,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
Summer's north of the wall now too. But yeah, when they found him, that was the line about Ghost. It was like left out in the cold or something.
Mm.
Tremendous analysis. Well, you're welcome. And thank you
Oh,
to Abhi Sarma there. So, what do I want to say about this? Oh, right. So Bran Stark once slept overnight in the tallest sentinel tree in the Godswood. So that just shows you that's foreshadowing for Bran sleeping in the Weirwood tree. So the sentinel trees, basically all the magic trees are talking about the same thing. Not magic trees, symbolism trees. Trees with heavy pregnant symbolism. They're talking about Weirwoods. So snowy sentinels, yeah, those are like others, essentially.
It also does him very well as a squirrel. Him constantly climbing up into trees, climbing up, like
Totally.
the Winterfell being treated like a frozen forest, him climbing the roofs and all that, climbing up into like towers. White towers are like weirwood trees, as we've mentioned. So it's like him climbing up into white towers in Winterfell is like him climbing in weirwood trees. And he finds crows up there because of course he does. And yeah, Steerpike Sisters mentioning it in chat. It's Ratatosk in the world tree. But it's also, the children of the forest are the squirrel people.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And Bran is serving that role because he's being a green seer. And green seers, originally, that's the purview of the children. And then also, so think about this. If Bran is sleeping in the sentinel tree and these 79 sentinels are planted in the ice of the wall, well, if Bran the Builder is the Black Gate, then he was planted in the ice at the wall to become a sentinel. And then there's the whole thing about Lord Riswell joining his son. And it's like Bran the Builder as a Black Gate is this ancestor where his children are joining him when they cross through.
Right. Well, and also possibly atoning. So we talk about Bran the Builder. One of the things that they speculate about in the World of Ice and Fire is that he's the son of Brandon of the Bloody Blade, who slew all these children of the forest. You talk about Bran the Builder, who worked with the children of the forest to build a lot of his big things. That implies there's some type of resolution there, that he has kind of atoned for the sins of his father, who killed all these children of the forest, killed so many children at Blue Lake that it became Red Lake, right?
Right.
So you've got your father here, Lord Riswell, who their sigil is very good. They've got
4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse sigil.
Right. Yeah, and it also just, it reminds me a lot of the Brackens and then the Blackwoods in the Riverlands. They have kind of a rivalry, but like there's the difference is the Bracken is fiery, so these are the ones without the fire of the gods. But anyway, yeah, he's
well. Hold on a second. Riswell. Somebody look up what Riz means. RYS. That is a prefix that means something. But Yggdrasil is Odin's horse,
right?
And Yggdrasil is by a well. So Riswell, a house of they have a wooden keep, right?
Ooh.
Well, I'm thinking of Deepwood Mott. That's different.
Right.
Yeah, figure out what. No, not RIZZ. RYS. I think it might be Welsh.
Yeah, I think the etymology he's pulling it from doesn't use a Y, because the RYS, like it ends up being like a lynx or something. But
RHIS. It means something royal, doesn't it?
Let me check on that.
Riz is French for rice. I don't know if that's it. Another grain. Yeah, that could be.
Root.
RHIZ.
RHIZ means root.
Oh,
so like a root of the world tree makes sense because they are, the world tree horse. Which,
root well. Yeah.
Right.
That's perfect.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, Riz well, because of the well of the Nightfort, which is literally among the roots of the tree.
Yeah.
And so the Riswell 79 Sentinels are at the Nightfort. So you see, like, everything about House Riswell is constructed as a complement to the 79 Sentinels myth to help us see this as tree people. All of it.
Right. Well, and then we have Lady Dustin, who is actually originally a Riswell.
Yes. And she's down in the crypts like Night's Queen.
Right, because the Dustins, all of their symbolism is meant to basically complement the story that we got of the first king in the Barrows.
Oh, so Riswell does have a fiery horse as a sigil. What's the one with the 4 horses?
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this one always obviously reminds me of the Brackens. And then there's another northern house that reminds me of the Blackwoods. So it's
Is it Dustin that has four horses? I
I
think it
thought
is.
theirs was more to do with like House Dustin Sigil. No, they have the two axes crossed with a crown. So
Oh,
there,
that's right.
it's meant to be about like the first king,
The Barrow
and
King, yeah.
actually it fits pretty well, especially with your outline here. Just because, like, we start looking at all of these figures, one thing that you've mentioned is that all of these tales are kind of alluding to the Night's King. All of these tales at the Nightfort. So, like, we start getting into a few of them, like one, Symeon Star Eyes has a poleaxe. We also have Arson Ice Axe. So, like, yes, Lightbringer is a sword, but in the context of, if you're
It's an
chopping
axe
down
because it's
trees,
chopping down the Weirwood tree. Yeah.
right, right. So, we have the first king. He has a couple of axes to chop down a couple of trees. One summer tree, one winter tree.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just like Symeon. Yeah. With the two blades.
Right.
There's so English riss or rice, also thicket, brushwood. So seems like similar meaning, root.
Oh, so if they're all planted in the wall, then they're kind of like hedge knights.
Um,
They're making the wall a thicket. Like it's a hedge now.
right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole point of the hedge knights is they're knights of they're, yeah, undead
Green,
tree
yeah,
people.
green knights.
Yeah, and Dunk is very much a tree warrior.
No, you like
Riswell
it.
is the one with four horses.
Long wooden finger like
Oh,
Osiris.
House Riswell of the Rills. There's two of them.
Yeah, the rills meaning
That's what it
the
is.
all of the hills in the north. And to be clear, like the hills are also called like the barrows are in the hills. That's what Barrowton and Riswell are very close to each other.
Uh-huh.
And so when we talk about the barrows, when you talk about a barrow, it's at a mound. Like so, a hill, but it's called specifically a mound, which is the same root word for mundi, like axis mundi. So, when you have a dead king with two axes, yes, he's part of the axis mundi.
I'm dying right now. What's the house with the four horses? It's not Riswell.
I'm just gonna look exactly that up.
It's not coming up here. This is only bringing up this one. I thought it was.
I'm not seeing anything like I got a list of houses with like horse type stuff going on, and it's just like Bracken, Root. Root has two horses, Riswell, and then the seahorse of House Valerian.
I must be tripping.
Well, those are four houses with horses.
Which ones?
Riswell, Bracken, Root, which is great because you just said,
Mm.
Riswell meaning root well. House Root, Riswell, Bracken, and Valarian with the seahorse.
Okay. There it is.
So we had to have four horses of the apocalypse. We had to have four horses for Hades' chariot.
Maybe is there a different Riswell that makes up their own arms with four horses that I'm
Well,
thinking of?
somebody has called you out here with an answer.
Did the Brackens and Riswells intermarry? Yeah, something.
House Ironsmith in the
No,
north.
that's not what I'm thinking of.
Oh.
That's something from the game. That's a sigil from the game. That's not in the books.
Oh, bummer. All right. Well, anyway, we're looking at the 79 Sentinels here as a number of things going on, but really like a complement to House Riswell, as you were saying, but also like this is kind of a reverse. It's a father atoning for the sins of his son.
Yes, and so that's sort of an opposite of the pattern we normally see. I do think that's possible though, where last hero, maybe he's the old guy, and the sinner is the young one. But I think it's the opposite. I do think it's dad that's screwing things up, and the son's got to fix it.
Yeah. Makes us think that maybe we don't have all the context and maybe the son was right to leave the Night's Watch.
So, Jomio, it's okay. I've not completely lost it. I know that I'm right. I know that there is a quartered horse sigil. It's somebody's personal sigil, probably. I know it's in there. I'm just, I have ADHD. I scramble things. Let's see if I can find it in Search of Ice and Fire. We'll move on in just a second, but I'm just gonna see.
I'm just gonna get ready with the next little section here while you're figuring that out.
Oh, I need to take this off. House Tarth, shout out. It's not going to be in the
Oh,
Tyrion
go back
ones.
up. Go back up. Quartered sun and moon heraldry of House Tarth. Oh, I was
Yeah,
thinking
Tarth.
like quartered sun and moon, but like drawn and quartered, like the way that you have four horses run in four directions to.
So Lord Dustin has a spiked. Oh, so that Lady Dustin quarters her Riswell arms with the Dustin.
That's good.
But that's not what I was thinking of. Oh well, gonna have to move on.
All right. So next we've got Arson Ice Axe, and there's not a ton about it, but that's so good.
Well, go ahead. Read this paragraph here and then start in on it, and I'll be right back. I need to go grab some more caffeine so I can. I almost lost it, and I need to get it back. So I'll be.
This is how ADHD people focus. We bombard ourselves with caffeine because for some reason it calms us.
It really does. I'll be right back.
All right. Arson Ice Axe had been halfway through the wall when his tunnel was found by rangers from the Nightfort. They did not trouble to disturb him at his digging, only sealed the way behind with ice and stone and snow. Dolorous Ed used to say that if you pressed your ear flat to the wall, you could hear Arson chipping away with his axe. Now, that's more like what we were talking about when we advertised this stream as spooky. That's a spooky tale. I hope everybody has their hot cocoa ready for the spookiness from the Nightfort, but that's really good. One thing that we've been talking about here, axes, pole axes, being a stand-in for this, Morningstar, Even Star weapon in the context of chopping down trees and fighting tree people. So when we talk about Arson Ice Axe, that's kind of a marriage between ice and fire, because arson obviously is the act of setting fire to something, but the axe is an ice axe, which is, like an ice pick, which you use to, chop through ice or climb ice, etc. So Arson Ice Axe is really it's just that weapon, but in the context of marrying ice and fire.
This one barely needs decoding.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that. I added that little bit about arsenic axe just because Arson Ice Axe.
Oh, I was downstairs. I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
Oh, I haven't mentioned it yet. It's the red that I added to the outline. Like just the, kind of the poisoned element of all of this. Arsenic axe, arson
Yeah,
ice
the
axe.
poison weapon is a big thing because it's the Weirwood net that gets poisoned, and Lightbringer is what does it. Yeah. So that makes sense.
It's kind of like we were talking the other day about, you have Odin stabbing himself into the world tree, and, actually he is stabbing the world tree as well. But he's stabbing the world tree with a spear made out of world tree. So it's like self-inflicted violence. But then we talked about the Silmarillion with Morgoth and Ungoliant, and how they destroyed the trees of sun and moon by stabbing them with a black spear. And then when you have a spider, you stab a tree and have a spider drink the sap. Like, it's implying poison. Spiders
Definitely.
are always implying poison. So if you have a
Venom.
spider,
Venom. Don't, man, I will get 1,000 venom. Spiders have
I
venom,
I do know the difference. I do know the difference.
but it functions the same as poison, you
Right.
fucking semantic freaks. Sorry, I love y'all.
Symbolically, they mean the same thing. Dave and I both know the difference between poison and venom. We promise. It's delivery method, but
I
anyway.
do now.
But yeah, like the idea of a spider biting into a tree and poisoning it, like that's what we're getting here. So when we talk about
Yeah, there's no
arson,
word for that. He's not venomizing the tree. He's poisoning it with venom. So there. Go ahead.
yeah. So when we talk about this, when we talk about poisoning the weirwood net, poisoning the tree and turning it into a were tree or weirwood, arsenic is like the classic poison. It's one of the oldest used poisons humanity has. So arsenic axe is a poison axe. It's like you're tipping your axe in arsenic, stabbing or slashing the tree and poisoning it.
And that reminds us of Oberyn, the Red Viper, who has a pole weapon that is poisoned. And it's black, oily poison on the end of his spear. So it is a moon meteor spear. It is both the world tree and the poisoning of the world tree. He takes that poison thing and he stabs it into the mountain, which is like first like the moon and then like the earth. The spear gets jabbed into the mountain's gut and then it sticks up like a pole.
Right.
And then he leaps over it.
Well, and to make this, even more, like obviously, like when Morgoth made the holes so that Ungoliant could suck the sap from the trees of sun and moon.
Oh, it's
Morgoth
envenomed.
it.
Envenomed. There is a word for it.
Right, there you go. He stabbed the trees with a black spear. So when we talk about Oberyn with an ash tree spear with black poison on the edge of it, oily black poison, that's what's going on.
Yeah, that is the poisoned tree itself. But then it's
Right.
also depicting, it's stabbing the earth and poisoning the earth. So
Right. So, and it's doing Odin stuff because Odin is stabbing the world tree and himself with a spear made out of world tree. But
no, he doesn't envenomate the mountain. He poisons the mountain. The spider, Ungoliant, envenomates the trees.
But it's good because in this scenario, in the mountain is also playing the Axis Mundi, the tree.
Yes.
So like, it's fun because Oberyn is orbiting around him, trying to catch the sun in his eyes and all of that. But
it really comes because he's stationary and Oberyn is moving. Exactly.
Right.
And so, okay, two things from the chat. The chat is ahead of us. One, arson ice axis also, because we're taking an axe to the world axis tree and we're poisoning it. We're chopping it down. So yeah, arson ice axis. That's cool.
Well, and it's a pretty good answer to the question of how do you get messed up seasons? You poison the world tree axis, the Axis Mundi.
Well, and just to give Tolkien some credit, like Tolkien isn't just having spiders poison trees here. Tolkien understands these symbols that he's playing with. He's created these cosmic lights, which are also like cosmic trees. He's borrowing from the Garden of Eden, where there are two trees, tree of life and the tree of knowledge.
Right.
So he's combining several different things here. And then, you've got the stabbing of the tree and then the poisoning of it. And then that darkens the world. So it's the same basic idea. It's like if you mess with the world tree axis, it's going to screw up the entire earth. Like all of the rhythms and the seasons will be messed up. So both Tolkien and Martin are speaking the same language here.
Right. Well, and if you look at Ungoliant herself, the backstory and the etymology behind the name, all of it screams Nyx from Greek mythology, which is the literal embodiment of the night. So if the night destroys the trees of sun and moon, you've essentially blotted out the light of day in the sun and the light of night in the moon. And so you've covered the world in darkness. And that is what's going on. And that's not natural. And it's something that George is doing too. When you blot out the sun, when you blot out the moon and create a long night without either of them, like that is poisoning the Axis Mundi. That is destroying the seasons. That is what's going on here.
So check this out. First, and also arsenic is used to make bronze. So the idea of weapons with arsenic actually checks out. Arsenic ice axe would be a first man bronze axe that would have arsenic in the axe. And then the weapons named ice have this thing with the bite of a leech. The black steel, Ned's ice has bite. Craster has a black axe that has bite. He wants a sharp axe with bite. The Dornishman's wife, Dornishman's black blade had a bite sharp as cold as a leech. So there's something here, and a leech sucks blood too. So this is a black sword that bites and sucks blood. That's just straight up Ungoliant Melkor stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and it's also, more to George's point, it's a really dark and brutal way of looking at a baby.
Steerpike sister, I'm sorry. I thought there was 4 different horses and they were like brown and black and gray and something. I don't know what I was thinking of. Steerpike says she looked through the whole wiki and can't find any heraldry that looks like that.
Well,
maybe I'm thinking of some other quartered sigil that isn't horses and it's something else.
You're going to figure it out in like 2 days and you're going to be so irritated you didn't remember it for the stream. But
it's all right.
But that's how it goes.
Cool. Well, we took that arsenic ice axe a little further than I had even in these notes.
Right. But anyway, what you were saying is like what I was kind of building on there is that's George's way of looking at a baby too. When you talk about like, the blood coming out, like being like a leech, when you birth a baby, blood everywhere, right? And then they suckle from you. So they're, that is also a leech-like act, even though they're not taking blood. So like when we talk about,
planning on having kids, Sean, or no?
No. But that little, I do love kids, but not for me. I love my nieces. I love coaching, but not for me. Anyway, so like when we talk about this little black blade, this little black dagger of the Dornishman that stabbed you over the Dornishman's wife because he, slept with the Dornishman's wife. It's a procreative act. The blade is like a baby. It's a leech. It's leeching off of the mother. It's releases blood when it comes. It's all of these things happening. And then we see it, in a number of scenes, we see little like black daggers representing babies, just like the Lightbringer sword is like a magic dragon steel blade.
Mary wishes to say that she gives birth very neatly.
No blood.
No bed of blood for her.
No bed of blood. No bleeding Stark in the sky.
4 black horseshoes? What sigil is that? I don't think that's what I was thinking of. But at this point, I have no idea what I was thinking of, so it's all right.
It's lost.
I gave birth loudly, Summertime says. Okay, go off, chat. Cool. Go ahead. I mean, look, if you've given birth, you have the right to talk about it. That's gnarlier than anything me or Sean will ever do. So go off, queens. Go off. Yeah, let's gotta love our chat. But yeah, of course, yeah, born under a bleeding Stark. Literally the bed of blood. It's an important thing. It's called out. Anyways. Oh man, I will figure out what sigil this is. I will.
That's how it always works.
It's there. It's in. I swear to God, it's in there. I don't know. Steerpike sister, did they have all the personal arms in the database of sigils you were looking for? Because individuals do sometimes make up their own coat of arms.
Yeah, that's one thing that I made a distinction fairly recently. I don't know if it was on the phone with you, Dave, or whether it was like in a stream. I can't remember. But like the Stark sigil being a direwolf, and then Robb Stark's personal sigil just being the head of a direwolf. And of course, he gets his head cut off, and they sew on Grey Wind's head. So it's kind of foreshadowing in a grisly way.
Indeed. Foreshadowing in a grisly way. The George Martin story.
Yeah.
So let's see here.
He mixed up foreplay and foreshadowing, really.
So yeah, a fire is Arson Ice Axe. He's trapped in the wall. So who is he? He's Azor High Turn Knight's King, probably. because he's stuck. He's trapped in there. Of
Not
course,
unlike a certain Bran the Builder trapped in the Black Gate.
Bran the Builder's trapped in the ice. We don't know how much overlap there is with Bran the Builder and any of these other figures. But Azor Ahai is trapped in the Weirwood net, and he's trapped in the ice in that he got frozen. It's the idea of like the wall being an ice dragon. It implies there's a sleeping icy dragon in the wall. That's Azor Ahai turned to Night's King. So that's kind of the same idea as Arson Ice Axe here. It's similar to Stannis, a blue-eyed king with a red sword, ruling over the Nightfort. Then we've got... why did I mention Brander here? Why did I bring that up?
I don't know, but I mean, Summer Brander being the flaming sword. I mean, it makes a lot of sense with Arson Ice Axe. Like
this is like Comet Tourette's that I just had here. No, I'm kidding. I guess, yeah, that's the ice and fire weapon that is stuck in the wall. That's basically, yeah, that gets into the wall itself, which is described as not only an ice dragon, but also a snake sword alive with light. Why did I bring up Brander, though? Sorry, wrote this a few weeks ago. Not sure what I was... There was some sort of missing thought in between these two.
But you are mentioning the comet here, which is like, we've seen the comet referred to so many times as a fiery sword or a flaming sword or a bloody sword.
And if we're talking about setting a big fire, like arson, like setting the world on fire, it's the ice axe that is going to set the world on fire. And it probably... I do think when the comet comes back, either a comet or a moon meteor is going to hit the wall. There does seem to be a lot of foreshadowing for that. And that could even be what the show is riffing on when an ice dragon attacks the wall. Because the comet is the ice dragon, ultimately.
Yeah, well, and another kind of fun thing about this is one of the chapters that you've really deconstructed super well, you call the alchemical wedding. So we have the, fiery comet in the sky, in a way, setting their litter on fire, which is, it's made of wood. It's like setting the Weirwood net on fire, and dragons are born from it.
And then Dana mimics it. She takes a torch and lights the pyre as if she's holding the comet, the burning brand.
Right.
Yeah.
The Mormont's torch, if you will.
Yes.
But yeah, and even beyond that, she makes a big show of talking about, north to south, ice to fire, and east and west. So it's another thing. It's kind of like, Kronos castrating Ornos.
You're right.
Where we once again have the 4 cardinal directions. We have the 4 seasons. George calls out to both concepts because they're connected. So
that's actually the opposite in that one, because she's rebuilding the tree. She's creating a connection between sky and ground instead of severing it.
Right. Well, she's bringing the fire of the gods to the trees, right? Like it seems like Grey King stuff to me, where you're calling the fire of the gods down and then harnessing it.
Yes, this is kind of like making something out of the ruined Weirwoods. So this is like after Azor Ahai messed it up, it's like somehow the children and the last hero, they patched together a new system, where there's now humans hooking up to the Weirwoods, sort of keeping this system going in a fallen form, and with children helping the last hero. I think it's something like that, because what's happening is that Dany is creating the sky ground connection of the pillar of ash. So this is the ash tree, and then Drogo is ascending it up to the red comet. Dany is being reborn with these weapons that can fight the others. So this sounds like the last hero getting reborn and forming the Watch and getting ready to go to fight with Lightbringer weapons, I think.
Well, a fun detail to that is that Khal Drogo died basically because he took a wound while they were fighting the Lazarene. And the Lazarene, like, that's the root word of that. It's from the Bible, Lazarus, the guy who resurrected, right? So, but beside that, they're the Lamb people. So once again, it's kind of like, it's implying Targaryens before they're dragons. And Miri Mazdur is one of the Lamb people. a Valyrian before a dragon, and she gets turned into a dragon.
For Daniel Dibka, I love you. 4 horse heads proclaimed the 4 Riswells of the Rills. 1 gray, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 brown. The jape was that the Riswells could not even agree upon the color of their arms. So it's not a quartered sigil. It's 4 different versions of the
I remember
Riswell sigil.
they were having some infighting between various members of the Riswell family. That's a great catch.
Thank you, Daniel Dibka. I knew that I was not. That's why I wasn't worried about it. Like, my memory is ADHD ridden with holes, but other than that, generally correct. Like, I knew there was something there. I knew that they were brown and gray. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. You get a star or an award or something.
Appreciate you. Get a smiley face next to your name on the calendar.
And the point is, it brings in the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse symbolism to the Riswells. And that's what I remembered. Because Riswell, the name, means root well, and it's tied to the Nightfort. So
yeah. Well, in it became the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse because it was drawing on something older from Greek mythology, where Hades had 4 godly horses who pulled his underworld chariot. One of them being Alistair, as in like Alistair Florent. Like that whole family, they're all named after different underworld figures. It's great.
Wes, if you were trying to point that out earlier, I apologize. A lot of messages going through.
I got to go to the bathroom real quick, if you don't mind.
Go for it, yeah. So, yeah, Arson Ice Axe, I think that pretty much covers it. It seems to allude to the comet potentially hitting the wall, and I do think it alludes to Night's King turned Azor Ahai, frozen in the ice. So, these next 3 I grouped together because I don't have any fancy symbolism interpretations for these myths. We will wait when Sean comes back. Oh, I didn't notice his dog was just chilling there. And there he goes. All right. I don't know what the symbolism is for these 3. I don't know if they have symbolism and I just haven't figured it out, or if these are just folk tales. But with Dany Flint, she's a woman who joins the Night's Watch and is R-worded and murdered. And that's it. That's all we know about the story. The thing that came in the night and took the Prentice Boys. And that, it generally sounds like others in fairy folklore, coming and stealing children. And if various Night's Watchmen are passing babies to the others through the Black Gate, then the others are the things that come in the night and steal the children. But that's about all I can wring out of that one. Dany Flint, it seems like the main purpose of the story is to describe what the situation is at the wall, because it's brought up when Jon is talking to Tormund about the wildling spearwives. And Jon is basically like, let's put all the spearwives in their own castle because, Dany Flint. So it seems like, I don't know how you can connect it to Dany, though. It doesn't really make sense. Like, if Dany goes up to the wall, it'll be to fight the others. So it's hard to see, like, what the symbolism. Also, that was, like, hard for me to, like, what's the symbolism of the R word? Like, what is, we talk about the violation of the Weirwood net. That's kind of like that. But I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't come up with anything there. And then the thing that came in the night, like I said, it could be about the others collecting the babies. And then Mad Axe, he's just a serial killer. Now, the thing about Mad Axe is that he took his shoes off and the only sound was the dripping blood from his axe. The White Walkers make no sound when they walk. So, did you hear anything I was saying, Sean?
Sorry, no, I missed almost all of that, and my dog infiltrated the room while I was gone, so.
We did notice that, yeah. So I was saying I don't really have a symbolism interpretation for these 3. Dany Flint, Thing That Came in the Night, and Mad Axe. They're easy to understand as folk tales. Like Dany Flint, tells us how rough it is on the watch, and that these are dirty birds, a lot of them. Okay, and it has to do with the wildling spear wives and putting them in their own castle and stuff like that.
Well, I have a few thoughts on it. I
Yeah,
don't know if you call it necessarily a full interpretation, but one thing that we get, Danny is obviously going to parallel Daenerys in some ways, but Danny Flint, we get implications of it every time we talk about sending a woman to the wall or a woman near the wall. So Arya, when she talks about like sheltering with Jon at the wall, when we talk about Alice Rivers going to the wall and then mistaking her for, Arya. Yeah, so like Flint being in the name, that's a black stone that starts fires. So we are getting those implications of like, fiery meteor type stuff going on.
yeah,
Uh,
that part makes sense. Like Danny Flint, like Daenerys has a black dragon that starts fires.
right.
The black meteors are generally tied to the Great Empire of the Dawn and stuff like that. But why is Danny Flint raped and murdered, and what does that have to do with anything?
Um,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I do
my,
think Daenerys is not going to survive the end of the story, but she's not going to be
right.
murdered. She'd be sacrificing herself to like fix the freaking Weirwood net and save the world or something like that, like totally grandiose. So I don't see how
Um,
that translates to like the theme of a rape or like a violation. It's kind of the opposite of that. Like the original Weirwoods were violated, but that doesn't. I mean, Danny's going to fix that.
I don't know. So like one thing that I'm getting is like we have all of this loss of fertility motifs at the wall, and her, if she's coming in and she's being raped, like it may be like a rebellion against bringing fertility to the wall for one. And we can kind of see that Danny is pointedly not doing that, because whether she has a baby with John or whatever ends up happening there, or she gets pregnant and then never has the baby, whatever the case is, she's supposed to be infertile right now, like after Miri Mazdur and Drogo. So that's one aspect of it.
I do
I
think
think
of the House of the Undying. So one of Danny's visions in the House of the Undying was a woman that represents Westeros, it seems, being gnawed on by these ratty dwarfs, which represent the War of the Five Kings, sort of gnawing at the land of Westeros. But when Danny wakes up from the dream, the Undying are gnawing on her. And I think the point of that is like it creates a parallel between Danny and Mother Earth. And she is very much a mother goddess in many, many ways. We've talked about
yeah,
that extensively. So the idea that like she's going to come to Westeros and represent the people. She's going to save the people. She's going to be the true mother goddess of the civilians of Westeros by sheltering them and protecting them. So that to me makes sense comparing Dany to the mother goddess. But like I said, in the Undying version, Westeros is being essentially raped
right.
by these
Um,
dwarf kings. So maybe that's
and
part of it.
we've seen uh sexual assault represented as um an invasion of bodily autonomy, and that has
Right.
been kind of equated with the body snatching that we see, like Bran stealing Hodor's bodily autonomy by puppeting
Yes.
him. Varamir trying to do that to Thistle. That's kind of like a sexual assault in the way that he does it. Um,
Will someone
and
try to
and
steal Dany's body? I mean, I've been talking about John's body being stolen by the others.
uh, that I don't know, but
Yeah.
putting a baby in somebody who does not want to have a baby by you, that is like stealing their body. It is like putting somebody in there in a way that you put a small person in someone and force them to have. It's kind of like putting a child of the forest inside a first man's body when you steal it. It's
Hmm.
very othery. There's a reason why these things are somewhat equated. I don't know how much that comes in narratively or symbolically, but that's kind of what I have on it. It's, yeah, like abomination, like they say in the chat, is the way that it's referred to most often.
I think my best interpretation is that it's the Weirwood that's been assaulted and violated, and Danny, in dying, is going to fix that. That's the whole point of the House of the Undying Vision, where she is giving herself to this canopy of bloody hands, which represents the refugees. But the Weirwood tree is literally a canopy of bloody hands. So when it says they needed her life and her fire, and she opens up herself and gives her fire to this canopy, that is foreshadowing her essentially giving her life fires to the Weirwood canopy. And that, I think, is going to be a big part of healing the Weirwood net somehow.
And there's an element of this, like, that's parasitic both ways, where you have a green seer among the roots of a werewood, kind of like a seed.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when you put your seed in a woman, a baby results. A baby grows from it in the same way that a tree grows from a seed. So, it's tenuous. I don't know exactly what George is doing there, but there are a lot of themes that he plays with very often that could fit there.
I mean, Bloodraven is being penetrated by the Weirwood roots. Like,
Yes.
they're kind of penetrating each other.
Right. It's
so maybe that's what we're talking about.
The parasitic nature kind of goes both ways, right?
Brutal symbolism, though. I mean, I almost just hesitated to even try to follow it. It's just like, come on, George.
Yeah. Well, Mad Axe, I have a more transparent opinion. Like, we have Arsenic Ice Axe. We have all these, we have Symeon Star Eyes with the Pole Axe. We have all these people doing pretty transparent things, turning the Lightbringer weapon into something that attacks trees. Mad Axe, that just seems like shamanic Odin ritual attached to that character.
Summertime, yes, they're penetrating each other. It's basically hentai tentacle porn down there in the Weirwood Cave. So
yeah, it's if you're familiar with Bond movies, it's like an
bit.
I'm not going to say it on your stream.
Appreciate that. So,
yeah.
Moving on from Danny Flint, the thing that came in the night and took the Prentice Boys, and so that sounds like faerie, changeling, folklore, stealing children. So the thing that came in the night would be the others coming to take their babies, right?
Yeah. That one's pretty transparent as far as these go. That doesn't require a lot of interpretation.
And then Mad Axe, again, he's a serial killer. We can only hear the blood dripping off his axe. He took off his shoes, so he walks around with no sound. The others make no sound when they walk. I don't know what the point of it is, though.
It just seems like all of the other characters with axes and pole axes, it seems like the shamanic ecstasy tied to that. So, like, he's got dripping blood off of his axe. That sounds like, an axe that chopped a werewood tree to me, because they have the red blood sap. It seems like, Arsenic Ice Axe is chopping werewoods, which makes sense because a werewood is also a unification of ice and fire in the same way that an ice axe named Arson is a unification of ice and fire.
Oh, I did mention that the thing that came in the night could be an allusion to the Wild Hunt, because he's leading a procession of the dead. And that kind of gets us somewhere.
I could see that. And
that ties into Odin and Kronos and Cold Hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the others in general very much they're all playing with the idea of, the Wild Hunt. So are the Night's Watch.
Yeah, and also think of, like, Night's King enslaved his brothers. So here, thing that came in the night is enslaving Night's Watch brothers. So that's kind of lines up as well. I was wondering something, though. Does the Night's Watch even have Prentice Boys? Like,
yes, Ollie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, and Mance grew up as like a apprentice boy in the Night's Watch.
Okay.
But yeah, it's this is just funny to me because we talked about, Valyrians turning to stone and becoming, in like how that's kind of a mimicking the others with, stone being symbolic death. You have stone statues of dead people, you have gravestones, you have, Mithras stone in the other world. The Thing that came in the night, George is a huge comic book fan, and the Thing is a hero who's made out of stone.
True. True. Can you take that any further? Is that it?
No, I mean it fits very well with the not the Stoneborn. Stoneborn is Mithras. What's the who are the people who have grayscale? The Stone Men.
Right. Okay. I see you there. A girl has no name says tentacle porn Weirwood Cave should be the next merch shirt.
Oh God.
Slythe99, Evil Dead the musical features sexual assault by evil trees. Don't know what that means, just reporting. Yeah. What's up, Native Girl Art and ASMR? Welcome to hour 3 of this live stream. So, Knights King and Queen. There's really not much to say about these people. Oh, wait. There's a couple things. All right. So, we've already said a lot of it. That'll make this easier. But, okay. So, like we said, there's many reasons to think Knights King and Queen is a story about the original creation of the others that happened during the Long Night. For one thing, it's the only story we have about how to create others. So, it might have something to do with that. And the thing is, even if you're like, no, Knights King, definitely, 150 years after the Long Night, because 13 Lord Commanders means 13 Lord Commanders. Well, then he's just copying the original person who did what he's doing. So it just ends up being the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a lot in common symbolically. They're all, Night's Watch Lord Commanders. We see a lot in common with our various Night's Watch Lord Commanders. John is a skin changer. The one we had before him was Jeor Mormont, who, he's not a skin changer, but he's got ravens on his shoulder like Odin. And then before that, we have Bloodraven, who is a skin changer and Greenseer. So like the idea is no matter where we look, like these Lord Commanders, they have a lot in common. And even if they're not, skin changers, right? They command crows. So it's the same idea. Commanding ravens, like Mormont, who has his shoulder ravens, It's like commanding crows, which is also, like maesters command ravens. It's all very circular, is the point. So, yes, they're going to have a lot in common. Are there literally 13? When people start arguing about the specifics, like there were definitely 12 Lord Commanders before him, they're losing the forest through the trees.
And other people have pointed out, in a protracted war against the others that goes on for years, you could lose 13 Lord Commanders, but that still doesn't work for me because Night's King, he starts this. He creates others at the beginning of the Long Night. Like that's happening at the beginning to me. So 13th Lord Commander could just be a superstitious number that got added into everything. Or more likely, I think it's the previous, the Green Man Watch at the Nightfort. Night's King essentially takes control of that and then perverts it. So,
well, and something that we do want to kind of keep in mind, because this is definitely something that George would know, is he messes with the number 7 for the others. He messes with the number 9 occasionally when he's directly referencing Odin. He messes with 13. He messes with 14, just to portray things. Like we talk about the Nightfort and Fortnight being 14 days, representing Night's King and Night's Queen stuff. But the idea is when you look at the prose and poetic Edda, there are 9 realms. Heimdall had 9 mothers. Like everything is in 9s, and it's not meant to be literal. There are not 9 realms. And like, I'm sorry if I shattered anybody's world, because that's like one of the most immutable concepts. Mm-hmm. Like you think there are 9 realms in Norse mythology. There aren't. There's somewhere between like 3 realms and 40. There are definitely not 9. 9 is like a poetic number in the same way that you would say a dozen. They just use 9 to refer to a number that they don't want to specifically count out. So George knows this. George has studied the poetic and prose Eddas. Tolkien knows this. So when he's listing things out like 7, 9, 13, 14.
They're meant to be symbolism more than anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what it's really clear with the 7. Like you can just see, it's like, how many battles did they have? Well, 7. How many castles did Durin build? Well, 7, of course. So, yeah.
They charged up the hill 7 times, and on the 7th time, they defeated their enemies. And, yeah.
So another one is like Night's king was only a man by light of day, Old Nan would always say, but the night was his to rule. So I always joke like, what was he, a werewolf? Was it like every night he got powerful and the night was his to rule, or was it the long night that was his to rule?
No, he's a weirwood.
Yes, we
And
already established that. Exactly right.
he got his wood at night, and the Night's Queen thanked him for it.
And so Night's king is cast down by Brandon the Breaker Stark. If that's the last hero, that would make sense. He broke the power of the long night. He brought about the break of dawn. He had the broken sword of the last hero that was reforged. So Bran the Breaker, Baylor Breakspear, like could be that kind of a name. He broke his sword, so he's called the Breaker. But ultimately, he broke the long night. That's the main thing that he did. So that could all work. And I've already said this, yeah, if the Nightfort predates the wall, there could be a watch there already. Talked about that. We talked about giving sons to the others. That's a euphemism from what Craster does. And this is something I've been pointing out recently, is that if the others are a hive mind, they're not taking individual babies and turning them into individual others. They are taking the life mana of these babies and absorbing it into their hive mind and strengthening their existence. It probably requires, I think the babies are required to sustain the physical bodies.
Well,
The spirits come from the Weirwood net, but like that baby mojo, they're taking that life force in the same way that like Stannis's children that would be children get turned into shadow babies instead.
so that kind of plays in well to we tend to think of Judaism as having heaven just because it's interrelated to Islam and Christianity, but there is no traditional heaven in the religion of Judaism. The idea is that basically your life force when you die goes back into the greater cosmic energy. And I'm not explaining this super well. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a theologist, but this is the basic gist of it: is that you come back to the greater cosmic weave, right? Like you become part of the backdrop of creation and everything again when you die. So it's kind of like being brought back into a hive mind, being brought back into, but it's George's kind of brutal, macabre, dark version of it.
Yeah, I mean, even Christianity has a vague idea like, spirits are eternal. We're born into the physical body, but we go to heaven when we die if we do everything right. And so it's like, well, where do we come from before then? The only real answer is also heaven, Or, yeah, so. Let's see here. Yeah, we talked about this. So Knight's, Craster, and he's giving his sons to the others. His sons are born of mortal women. And so the others are taking these babies and they're doing ice spidery stuff. They're sucking out the life force from the baby and they're using it to sustain themselves. Now, Night's queen is not a normal human. She's described as like an ice and other almost. She doesn't really sound like a corpse. So a lot of us think corpse queen refers to her ability to raise corpses and not the fact that she was a corpse. Also, you can't really fall in love or sleep with a white. They're all like, ugh. It's not really doable. So if she is perhaps somebody like Melisandre has pursued fire magic so hard that she is transforming into a fiery being. What if you did the same with ice? Maybe that's how all of this started. Night's queen is some...
Sorry, like Melisandre did not burn Stannis to ash.
No. Right.
So the idea is like at the other end of the spectrum, you would be able to basically not freeze them to death. Also,
Night's queen needs to be fuckable, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Like, we can't have children otherwise. So she can't really be a white.
An extreme blood flow or extreme heat or extreme cold, does not allow for blood flow.
Well, that part of it we can look past. But like, it's got to at least, she can't be that cold, I guess is what you're saying, right? Like if she is literally icy cold, then it might not be possible. But
Yes, the tree doesn't stand upright amongst that much cold.
what if it was an Osiris type of wooden pole, though?
Yeah, has it got a crescent at the end?
So I will just say that we're going to move on. And I will just say that what I really think is happening is that all of this is inside the Weirwood net, actually. And that this is, Night's Queen is the spirit inside the Weirwood net. And Azor Ahai is going in the Weirwood net. And it is from there that the others are sort of birthed or created.
And one way I like to kind of point out that idea is we have Patchface, who's always saying under the sea, right? And then he talks about arranging going beyond the wall as we'll go into the sea and come back out again. So the idea is going beyond the wall in metaphorical terms is like going into the green sea or the Weirwood net. And it's essentially, going into the afterlife. When you die, you go into the Weirwood net. When you die, you go into the green sea, you go beyond the wall, whatever. So it's kind of the same idea here, is if he spied her from the top of the wall, beyond the wall, it means, and he chased her down and left her, he chased her into death.
Yep, I think that's right. And I think he spied her from the top of the wall. I think that is like basically a post, like a later revision. Like, because she came from the north, it's assumed that he must have seen her from the wall. But I think all this is happening before the wall is actually built. That is just my timeline heresy of it.
Yeah, I think it's more of a symbolic thing here, with the wall being the wall between life and death, the veil between life.
Right. So she is a woman that is beyond that wall. She is in the death realm. And it's just like, well, what's the Nightfort is all about the Weirwood there. So it's like, if he chased her and caught her and brought her back to the Nightfort, like, they're living by the Weirwood tree. That's what they're doing. When they're creating the others, they're creating it by this Weirwood tree.
It also makes it sound like a resurrection. He brought her from beyond the wall back into the world of the living, or at least skirting it, on the border, right? If they're at the wall, they're kind of between life and death.
That could make sense. That could be the way that she's a corpse queen. Is like, she starts out as deadness and is a spirit in the Weir net, and they give her an icy body and she incarnates. That could be too. We'll never get answers to this level of detail.
I still love the Greek myth of Amethyst, where it's a woman who was frozen into ice in order to avoid Dionysus's advances, and then he felt so bad, and in order to give resolution to it, he poured his celestial wine over her and turned her purple, and that's how Amethyst was created. So it's like that sounds like the Amethyst Empress becoming the Night's Queen, in a manner of speaking, and it has that George R. Martin like crime and resolution.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, yeah, I mentioned Hecate being someone that can raise the dead. Amel can raise the dead. She doesn't know it yet, but she should be able to. And of course, it's Durran Durrandon who originally posited the idea that Night's Queen could be an icy Melisandre.
Right.
And then, of course, George had a Melisandre figurine made in blue and green, which looks like Night's Queen, so that's another clue in this direction. But the bottom line is that Night's King and Queen, I think they ruled from the Nightfort during the Long Night. They were making others and leading the invasion of Westeros, just as Stannis took the Nightfort at his seat and is now invading Westeros from the north as a rebel king. They were thrown down by the Starks, who probably would have built the wall afterward. I mean, that just kind of makes sense.
Jon is going to do something similar. He got killed because he was planning an invasion of the north, which would make him sort of like a rebel king. And of course, he is eventually going to become king in the north, or at least, for part-time, it looks like. So it's, when you look back at these legends thousands of years later, the timing gets jumbled. Jon was not a rebel king when he planned an invasion of the north, but then maybe later he kind of did, and he became a king and all of
Well,
that.
no,
Yeah.
I mean when he is recruiting the wildlings to go attack Winterfell, he is breaking his vows. He is becoming a rebel king. Right then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Bong full of snakes. Yeah, Tim has mentioned Cthulhu, the living flame, and Afumza, the cold flame. He has mentioned those before. Yep. I'm not going to bring that stuff up when he is not here. I don't know it well enough, but he has mentioned that.
It's like cheating on him anyway.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. So we mentioned that Symeon Star Eyes seems like a symbol for the Weirwood tree at the Nightfort, or the Night's King using the Weirwood tree to tear open the sky, something like that. Well, again, the Nightfort Weirwood is like Night's King and Queen in that it's reaching for the moon. And the quote is, pale moonlight slanted down through the hole in the dome, painting the branches of the Weirwood as they strained up towards the roof. So there's things coming down and going up. It's like an exchange. It looked as if the tree was trying to catch the moon and drag it down into the well. Yggdrasil also is painted. They're whitewashing it all the time. So that's probably what's going on here, painting it with moonlight. And then, of course, Night's Queen, skin as cold as ice and pale as the moon. We talked about this. So,
Well, and again, like we talked about how Ungoliant is largely based on Nyx. That's also a good description of Nyx. She's, pale as moonlight because she is the night. She's only lit up by moonlight. She is, ivory pale, all that. And she's the literal night. Sometimes she's referred to as the goddess of night, the queen of night. Sometimes it's more, metaphysical, and she literally just is the night. But that's what the Night's Queen is portraying. And when we talk about the Nightfort, it's like the cave of night. As far as a concept, the sun hides in the cave of night. So when we have the Night's King, who we, suspect is an Azor Ahai figure, Azor Ahai is like a solar prince or a solar king of some kind being trapped in the cave of night, because that's what they do.
that is what they do. You're never coming out. And again, Bran has the wolf Summer down in the dark cave, during the winter.
He has the Wolf of Summer down there too.
So this is mostly stuff that we've already talked about.
Right.
Let me just see here. Yeah, so I'm speculating here that basically Night's King and Queen, when they're making the others and giving them bodies and stuff, they probably used the Weirwood tree at the Nightfort to do this.
Yeah.
And then later, it seems like Bran the Builder uses the same magic to make the wall.
Well, and one thing that we look at is we've kind of, there's an implication of sacrifice involved at both ends of this. So one thing we see is Bran at Winterfell, seeing through the Winterfell heart tree, somebody being sacrificed with a sickle, moon crescent shaped blade by a woman, and it's giving off Night's Queen vibes. Did it really happen at Winterfell? Probably not, from what we know. But the idea of a parallel event happening at Winterfell to counter what is going on at the Nightfort, that makes a lot of sense. They're also both now going to be ice and fire coated, where you have, the sun inside the cave of night, Azor Ahai in the Nightfort. That's ice and fire marriage. Then we have Winterfell with its, hot spots coming up through the earth. That's ice and fire coated. We talk all about, like dragons underneath the earth in Winterfell. That's ice and fire marrying. So it's now we're seeing the same thing at both ends again. Winterfell versus the Nightfort, which is, of course, what we got in the end, because it was Brandon the Breaker who threw down the Night's King.
Yeah, these Weirwood sacrifices are happening all over the place. I'm not sure that is Night's Queen or anybody important in that vision. It may be, or it may just be representative of the ritual itself. But hard to say. So there you go. That's pretty much it. We could, if there's any other points you want to make about any of that, I'm just trying to let this simmer. Sometimes I turn these streams off without making that sort of like tie it together kind of part. So let's just think about everything that we've gone through here. And basically, I really do see it all as essentially explaining that the others come from the Weirwood trees, that this Weirwood at the Nightfort was used to make the others and to has something to do with causing the long night, with throwing everything off of its axis. Might have been that Weirwood tree or just the Weirwoods in general. But it gets back to that age-old question, Sean. Do human magicians have the power to reach into the stars in this story? Can they call comets? Can they steer comets? Can they do any of that? It's kind of implied that some of the magic horns might be able to do that, but we often also see the Weirwood trees seemingly reaching into the heavens, pulling down the moon like at the Nightfort, but also scratching at the moon, shutting out the sky, doing things like that. So I really do think, if Azor Ahai is invading and defiling the Weirwood net at the time of the long night, then that's got to be something having to do with the cause of it. And from a mythical perspective, like we've been saying, the world axis tree is the framework of the universe and the timing of the seasons and everything. So symbolically, if you mess up the world tree, it messes up the seasons. So somehow Azor Ahai invading the Weirwood net should cause the long night. And we see all these implications of Weirwood trees being able to reach up into the sky, break the dome of heaven, pull the sun and moon down. So yeah, I can only conclude that something about invading the Weirwood net caused the celestial apocalypse. Did he call the comet? Did he just throw? I don't know. It's hard, and I don't know how much of an answer we're going to get either. The closest thing we'll get to an answer is like what happens to call the comet back, because it is going to come back. So
Well, I tend to think that a lot of the larger natural elements are happening at the same time because they are trying to show that the symbolism matters. So, like, if, a comet hits the moon, destroys the second moon, or, just leaves a gigantic gash in the moon and knocks a bunch of meteors down, and a meteor shower hits the world and causes a huge calamity at the same time that these things are also all representing the same things symbolically, like, a usurping brother, essentially violates his empress sister, like that kind of stuff. I tend to think that they're probably not calling down meteors literally, but that it happened at the same time because they were doing those exact same things symbolically. Although I don't know, we, like you said, we're probably never going to get answers for this. But if you're talking about like how we can get some kind of verification of things that we talked about today, like with the Night's King, one of the foremost Night's King figures we get in the series is Craster. And he is born because a Night's Watchman goes beyond the wall, spies a woman from the top of the wall, goes to White Tree, impregnates her, and then leaves. So it's like, Craster is born at White Tree to a wildling woman and a Night's Watchman. So like, yeah, that's symbolic verification for a lot of the things that we were talking about when we were referring to the Night's King. And even more so if, like you were talking about earlier, there are theories around whether it was, Aemon or possibly Bloodraven who was the Night's Watchman who got her pregnant.
Mm-hmm. That would really fit to me. Yeah. I mean, that's the pattern. It's like a dragon person goes north, marries or gives his seed and soul, if you will, to some sort of Weirwood woman. And from that comes the line of the others.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it's not happening literally with Craster, even if he's not literally dragon-blooded, he's doing all the same things. Like you said, he lives in a keep parallel to Red Keep. He is
an incest shepherd.
Incest, yeah. He's his name is Crater. It's just all like, I mean, he threatens them with a black axe. So, you want to talk about like arson ice axe or mad axe. he jumps up on the table mad, you know, and he threatens the Night's Watch with an axe, which is what Mad Axe does. So
I want a David Lightbringer in any case shirt. We'll have to make that a some sort of visual pun with like a briefcase or something like that.
Or like, you know, you're in Westerosi court because you caught a case.
Yeah, I'll take any case. In any case, I will function. Yeah, it is a good segue.
Or both. You've got a briefcase because you're Tyrion's lawyer.
Well, lawyers have briefcases. That's they have the briefs in the case. That's where the name comes from. Yeah. So I think the thing that I take away from this the most is like, especially with this Kronos cosmic axis stuff, and with so many of these myths having these tree axes involved, Mad Axe and the 79 Sentinels, we're being shown that the creation of the others is very much tied to the screwing up of the seasons and the cause of the long night. Like it's all rooted in the same set of events. That is coming through here like loud and clear. However you want to parse out the details. All this stuff. There's a magician at the Nightfort using the Weirwoods to break open the sky, to throw off the cosmic order, and to create the others. That's all happening here. So, like I said, I'm not sure how much detail George will end up providing us through these future parallels. We will learn more in the next two books. But based on what we know, we can go pretty far with this and say, yeah, there's some unholy Weirwood magic happening here that creates the others and that screws everything up. So where did Azor Ahai kill Nissa Nissa? Like, I'm down to Isle of Faces or the Nightfort. And I think I'd even put Nightfort number one at this point. And you can see why, kind of.
Well, there's a really good...
Or it could be, one second, it could be that he kills her on the Isle of Faces and that the Nightfort is where we find her spirit and bring her back, kind of.
Yeah, the veil. Or like the veil of life and death, not the veil of Aaron. But yeah, there's a really good example of this whole, you know, cosmic axis causing the long night thing, where we have Rhaenys during, you know, the war against Dorne, and she's destroyed at the Hellholt, where the
Holt means wood.
Right. And her dragon is Meraxes, which is Mer means sea, and then Axes. So it's like the astral sea, the, you know, cosmic sea, the sky, you know, the night sky, the space is the astral sea. So, you know, the Axis Mundi in the sky
at the Hellholt
comes down.
And it's brought down by a scorpion bolt
to the eye. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that all tracks. So, yeah, okay.
And then it was a dark time after that. And during that,
yeah, because so think about just real quick. Let me pause you.
Yeah.
At the Nightfort, we're trying to pull down the moon eye, and so here we got Meraxes shot through the eye, and the falling dragon represents the falling moon meteors. Go ahead.
Right, and she's a fiery moon figure. You know, Aegon is an Azor Ahai figure with his fiery wife Rhaenys and his icy wife Visenya. Whether they're the same person pre and post death, or whether they're two different people, it doesn't matter. But like the idea is, you know, that her dying in a fiery wood, you know, or a wood with the fire of the gods, whatever, sets off a dark time, you know, the long night. We've tilted the Axis Mundi. Seasons are now all messed up. He's burning Dorne, every castle in Dorne all over the place. And Visenya creates the Night's Watch, the Kingsguard during that time, who are very other-coded. They're all dressed in white, you know, the white swords, what you call them. They're always referred to as icy and stuff. So she Night's Queen creates the Night's Watch after we have destroyed the Axis Mundi.
Right. That's the sequence I was looking for, yeah.
Right.
Because it is right after that she does it. Because they're worried about the Dornish assassins.
And she scars Aegon's face to do it.
So that's Night's Queen taking the blood from Azor Ahai. Like taking his blood to create the others.
Yeah, like his seed.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, a scar across the face of God, the scar
Oh,
across the
yeah, yeah,
face of
yeah.
the moon, scar across the face of the, you know, the
Totally.
comet, whatever. Yeah. So
Cool. Well, I think that'll do it, Sean. That's been about 3 hours, 3.5. I didn't think
yeah.
this would go that long, but it did. So there it is.
Well,
This
it
was
went well.
originally going to be a script for a produced video. You see why I moved it to a live stream. It was going to be too long. So
Yeah. Yes. This was another 10 to 15 minute video.
yeah, yeah, yeah. 15 minutes. Oh, not quite. So, oh, and just to follow up on some of the announcements, Dothraki 2 is still coming. That video might be an hour and a half or more. And what I need to do is buy myself time to work on it. You guys notice I have started putting out videos once a week. YouTube likes that quite a bit. They really do. So I'm going to try really hard to keep up this one a week schedule in order to carve out time to work on a 90-minute Dothraki video, which might be my greatest world building video ever. I really went deep. But in order to carve out time to do that, I got to get ahead of schedule. And I can only do that by making some shorter videos. So that's what I've been trying to do for the last 2 months. But every time I write a script, it ends up 40 minutes instead of 20. So I will have a new type of video coming this week, which is about the secret story. And it will be shorter. And I'm hoping to stack up a couple of these shorter ones and get them done ahead of time so that I can spend a couple weeks doing this Dothraki video. So I collected some donations over 2 weeks for the commissioned art of the Dothraki video. I've not forgotten about you. That artwork is still coming. The video is still coming. So just want to reassure you. And yeah, Land the Clever. If you came to the secret stream and watched me record that a couple weeks ago, you saw something unique. I erased all of that off my computer by accident and I had to re-record it. But I did a better job. So Land the Clever is partially edited and that's coming in a week and a half. So what do you got coming soon, Sean?
So I'm going on a little bit of a Dune tear here. I've got a YouTube video coming. I've mostly finished the script for it about Egyptian mythology and how that is the storyline for Dune, essentially. Horus, like we were talking about today. And then I have a companion Patreon video that goes into the influence of Odysseus on Dune. And then I will be doing a chapter reading in my Patreon for the Odyssey, or Troy Story 2, if you like. But yeah, those three things on the way. After that, I don't know. But for now, that's a lot of projects for me. We'll see if I can kind of put that out at the same time as there's some hype for the next Dune movie. But
I'm stoked for the Aliens TV show. You guys, I will just say I have the Script Wolves link in the description. Oh, that was a good one. Go ahead and subscribe to that. I am going to cover the Alien Earth TV show for sure. I don't know. It might just be live streams with talking and no images at first because they only have so much time to do it. But I am going to talk about that bloody show one way or the other. So subscribe to Script Wolves if you like Aliens. The Aliens Earth TV show looks like it's going to be freaking good, by the way. It doesn't look bad. It looks really good. I liked Alien Romulus quite a bit. I'm a fan of Prometheus and Covenant as well. So I'm very into this universe, and I might do a video about Romulus as well. We'll see. But yeah, go ahead and give me a sub on the Script Wolves channel in the description if you're into that.
there are two wolves inside each of us, and one is Nimble Dick.
One of them's got to die to create Rome. Sorry, Remus. Yeah. No, Nimble Dick is my inner wolf. That checks out. That's correct. Yeah, listen, the new Alien show, they did something smart, which is they made more aliens. They made new and potentially even more disgusting parasitic creatures. There's one called the Oculus something that like tears out your eyeball and then crawls inside your skull and takes over your brain. And then you have this big, weird, deformed eye, and like you're a zombie and shit. It's so fucking gnarly. Anyway, yeah, I. It's funny. Like I am so. I cannot deal with real body horror. Like I don't have any tattoos or piercings because like I don't. You can't stick needles in me. Okay. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm just like I'm not into pain or anything like that. Okay. So for some reason, like I don't like horror. Like I don't watch movies about things that scare me, but for some reason Aliens is just like it's got me. Like it's really fascinating. It's so horrific and
Well, it's got the mythological thematic backing.
it
Like
really does.
it's not a surface level narrative. That's why you like it. But and that's the thing is like horror is really hard to do well. And I'm not trying to be a snob, but most horror is trash. It's not done well. A lot of it is just jump scares and stuff like that. So when you find somebody that really does horror super well, they are as good as it gets in terms of authors. And you see a lot of authors who are really good at horror branch out into other genres, and it's amazing. George R. R. Martin's an example. He does a lot of cosmic horror. He was brilliant with it. Transitioning to something else was seamless because he was great at it. Stephen King, as much as you can criticize him for, putting out like too many books and not enough effort into each one, like he has
And
put
just
out
having a bloated writing style in general, but he can conceive of horrific things like nobody's business. Yeah.
well, and he has some fantasy series that are fantastic, like Dark Tower, etc. So like it's a good author is a good author. If you can do horror well, you can do anything.
Yeah, and what I love about Aliens is that they've really the themes and the physical horror is all like really well united. It's very cohesive because it's about corporatism and AI, meaning in all the alien movies there's just these a few mega corporations that are more powerful than governments and they own everything. So it's just like a metastasized version of the corporatism that we deal with now, and that is also like compared to the aliens themselves, the enslaving people. So they're drawing these thematic parallels, and then there's the idea of artificial intelligence, where like cyborg, even before we talked about AI the way we do now, in the first Alien movies, they have cyborg android robots, and they unnerve the humans, and the humans aren't sure whose agenda the robots serve. Answer: Wayland Corporation. And so there's always this thing where the corporation is trying to, instead of save the people, they're trying to capture and research the alien to turn it into a bioweapon and stuff like that. That's the essential the setup for the whole universe. So I just really relate strongly to all that. And I think the way that they carry out those themes, especially in Prometheus and Covenant, it's just like, oh, it's so good. And yeah, Croft Talks About Movies is the place to go for alien videos. You should watch everything about Prometheus on that channel. You will not regret it.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
good stuff.
yeah, I found another good alien channel last week. I forget what it's called, but it was really good too. Always a soft stop. Yeah, I say we're ending the stream. That just means we're winding it down. It's like church, You're ready to go, and then like, no, not quite. Oh, the preacher has another thought.
We will be handing out donuts now.
Yeah, everybody's already eating donuts at the back. It's loose. Keep it loose. Or
Donuts.
onions.
Damn it.
I don't know. I thought Terminator 2 also was doing some good work with themes.
It is, but it's an action movie. Like
That's
it's
true.
not even the same genre as Terminator
Oh,
1.
I see the point. Yeah, saying the first one is more horror. Yeah, sci-fi horror like Aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, suspense building versus like, the apex of an action movie being the biggest action scene. And then you wrap it up differently, right? You have like a conclusion where the loose ends are tied up, whereas in horror it's like, all right, everybody's scarred now. Maybe some people survived.
Yeah, there's only ever going to be one, tops two survivors in any Aliens movie. Yeah, Raised by Wolves got me back into Aliens, exactly, because Raised by Wolves was Ridley Scott taking a lot of the themes of Aliens and putting them more on the front page. Talking about this synthesis of organic and robotic life and artificial intelligence and man creating computer life and all that stuff. So once you like think about Aliens and Raised by Wolves together, you can sort of see the same mind behind all of it, and you can see the questions that he's asking. So I'm into all that stuff.
Well, and it's funny. Michael Biehn is in both franchises, but it's kind of a bummer that Ridley Scott has not spent his whole career doing that. Like,
oh, Vasquez is such an icon, dude. Vasquez is the fucking icon. It's almost as much as Sigourney Weaver herself. Yeah, she's such a boss.
I loved Michael Bihn's character. He's just a good action hero. But I liked Bill.
Oh, I know the actor you're talking. Oh, the guy that played Kyle Reese in Terminator.
He's Kyle
1.
Reese, and he's in Aliens.
He's in the second Alien movie. Yeah,
but yeah,
same character too, kind of.
Bill Paxton was even better.
Bill Paxton. Oh man, what are we gonna do, man? Yeah, the famous freak out.
I don't know if you've been paying attention, man, but we just got our asses kicked.
Yeah. Which honestly, there'd be at least one of those guys in that situation.
Yeah, we didn't think we were going to be dealing with giant black aliens with acid blood, but that's fine.
Just could not be any more of a nightmare. Oh yeah, no, don't shoot them because they'll explode all over you. All right, well, I think that'll about do it. Thanks, guys, for coming out. Subscribe to the channels and stuff. See you next Sunday. Got a video coming out this week. Again, please watch it. It's very important. I really need YouTube to show this to some people so we can get some new folks, like I said, into the circle. It's going to be called George's Secret Story, I think, so watch out for that. Please just watch it as soon as it comes across your feed, and if you feel like sharing it, that'd be cool too. So with that said, if you want to help this stream out, click the thumbs up and leave a comment after we end, which we're doing now. And thank you, Sean, for coming on, as always.
Always
and have
a pleasure.
yourself a lovely week.